So it's Thursday, February 16, 2017. We're live, broadcasting worldwide at like 3:54 Central Time. President Trump is only amazing, signing multiple bills today, having huge press conferences, trashing the globalist media, exposing the fact that they work for elites that believe they own America and the American people. This is unprecedented. The establishment is in absolute panic. We covered much of the press conference live today, but he just had another brief press conference where he fulfilled another promise a month into his presidency. Tomorrow will be 1 month. A month into his presidency, President Trump has signed legislation not banning coal power plants and not having regulations that bankrupt. Remember, Obama said, you can have a coal power plant, but we will bankrupt it. Well, more than half our power came from coal power plants then, totally clean burning, only water and carbon dioxide come out. But Obama signed regulations outside of law that shut down almost 1,000. And so power prices went up over 60% in the United States in the last 8 years. So we can't compete with China because our power prices are so hard and are so high, and it hurts the people as well. But Trump signs bill undoing Obama coal mining rule. They claim it's about rivers or streams. That's a side issue in the whole situation. Trump signs bill of repealing Obama coal mining restrictions. And he went on to say, we're bringing it back fast, Trump said before signing the bill. Trump then gave the pen, which he signed to the legislation to coal miners who attended the ceremony. Then after he signed it, he came out and gave a brief statement. We're going to go to that here in just a moment and then come back with the hour and 18-minute incredibly historic press conference that Trump gave today, where he, in a laughingly, lovingly way, destroyed the MSM and pointed out that it's Hillary Clinton that got money from the Russians, not him, letting her know and letting Obama know and Soros know, you keep pushing this, I'll put all your criminal asses in prison. Let's go ahead and go to just about 10 minutes ago when he came out after he signed the bill in the Oval Office. Here it is.
Okay, we had an exciting news conference before, and some people loved it. I think nobody hated it, but I think it was very productive. And thank you all for being there. That was very nice. And thank you, all of the wonderful politicians, but right, Mitch, especially the miners that are with us, right? So I just want to thank you, seriously. We appreciate it. We appreciate it very much. And this is our second bill signing this week as we continue to work for the American people. This is HJ Resolution 38, and that will eliminate another terrible job-killing rule, saving many thousands of American jobs, especially in the mines, which I've been promising you. The mines are a big deal. I've had support from some of you folks right from the very beginning, and I won't forget it. I went to West Virginia, and we had 17,000, 18,000 people that couldn't get into that big arena, right? You were a few of them, but that was some day and some night. I want to thank Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, House Speaker Paul Ryan, House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy, House Natural Resources Committee Chairman Rob Bishop, thank you, Rob, and Representative Bill Johnson, who worked very hard on this bill, and they really did. They worked very hard. This was a tough one. I also want to thank the great members of Congress who have joined us today. We have a lot of them. In eliminating this rule, I am continuing to keep my promise to the American people to get rid of wasteful regulations that do nothing, absolutely nothing, but slow down the economy, hamstring companies, push jobs to other countries, which is happening all over. Although I must tell you, we've stopped it. You've seen all the factories, all the plants that are moving back. They're going back to a lot of places. So you know that, right, fellas? They're moving back fast. Ford, General Motors, Fiat, so many. Very happy. Compliance costs for this rule would be over $50 million a year for the coal industry alone. And it's unnecessary. I want to also thank the incredible coal miners who are with us today. I think we can maybe thank them the most, right? To the political leaders. You folks have put up with a lot. And, you know, in other countries, they love their coal. Over here, we haven't treated it with the respect it deserves. Even for defense, Having that coal is a very important thing for us. So I want to thank you all. This rule we're eliminating is a major threat to your jobs, and we're going to get rid of that threat immediately. We're going to fight for you like I promised I would in the campaign, and you were very good to me, and I'm going to be even better to you. I promise you that. And we're going to fight for also low energy prices for all Americans. There's a spirit of optimism rising across the country. It's going to continue to grow as we sign more and more bills. We're going to make our nation more than competitive, not just competitive. We're going to be more than competitive. And we're going to win at many, many industries. We're already starting back with the automobile industry. We had the airline industry in the other day. They have rules and regulations that by the time they get through it, it's nothing left. And they have to get rid of a lot of jobs. We had a great meeting, actually. We had the unions in, we had the workers in, we had a lot of people in. They're all very excited about what's happening. And I haven't looked yet at the stock market, but it's been going up at record clips. We have a tremendous streak going on. And that's only because of the optimism. They feel the optimism. And that optimism is creating a lot of jobs. So it's an honor to have everybody with us, and in particular, the miners. We appreciate everything you've done, fellas. Thank you very much. Would anybody like to say a few words? How about one of the miners saying a few words? I hear these guys all the time. I hear Rand all the time. Come on. Who'd like this? Come on, Mike.
President Trump, we thank you very much for everything you've done for us. Everything that you're doing for our industry is very much needed. I've been mining in this industry for 40 years, and this is a very exciting time for our industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Tell them where you're from, Mike.
I'm from Morgantown, West Virginia, but I work at the Marion County Coal Company.
How did I do in that area?
Oh, you did great.
Good. Say something.
Well, President Trump, yes, representing West Virginia as the senator and Senator Manchin and I, and we have our congressional delegation here, Congressman Jenkins, Congressman McKinley, and Congressman Mooney. This is a lifeline to us. And these miners, they mine in West Virginia. It's a source of pride for us as a state that we've been able to power this country, that we've had the opportunity to provide the energy to this country. And thank you for being a partner with us and being a leader, President Trump, in this. We believe in this, and we believe in your commitment to making sure American miners get back to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a big day for Kentucky. We want to thank President Trump for getting rid of this job-killing regulation. It was scheduled to cost us thousands of more jobs. Nobody seemed to care about Kentucky, but I can promise you Eastern Kentucky voted about 75% for Donald Trump.
That's right. Listen, the full press conference just happened about 15 minutes ago. I'm not exaggerating. I had to have them go get me a handkerchief during this press conference, because if you understand the world and industry and civilization, back to fire, cooking our food for us and giving us warmth of the night, energy is everything. And the globalists let China and India, who are great people but are monopoly-controlled systems, and Mexico and 100+ other countries have all this free coal and have dirty run power plants. And then they can compete with us at levels we can't compete, and we get shut down. So we have Obama famously saying when he was president-elect, you can have your own power plant, but we're going to shut you down. We're going to bankrupt you. So when you know that 60% of our power just a few decades ago was coal, and 50% by the time Obama got in, and like I said, 30% or so now or lower, you realize that's why our power prices have gone up so much, that it's the globalist austerity plan. Coal is completely clean with the scrubbers we have. And China is just a smokestack and a water turbine, or Mexico. Here, it's a big old building because it goes through a scrubber and gets coke for, that's what it's called, this carbon for creating steel and all these other things they need for distillates and fuel and additives and plastics. So it's a whole industry America invented, along with the Germans mainly, to be able to take coal and turn it into all these things. The Germans could make gasoline out of coal. They invented that. So we have enough coal to go thousands of years. They estimate at current rates about 2,000 years here in the United States. But if you're the globalist, you've made deals with China and sold us out because America's an open economy. If you're a globalist trader, like they're saying, you know, Trump's this Russian agent, which isn't true, then you can get personally rich off selling us off. And some of the Clintons and people get like a $5 million and you know, they get half the coal or they get 35 million and they get 30% of the uranium. I mean, they're the ones that have been selling us out. Now, I haven't gotten to his big press conference that I was just going to do a special report today. And Rob Dew said to me about 30 months ago, he says, this press conference is too good. He comes out with rock and roll techno music playing just to show everything's different. He then annihilates CNN. He exposes Hillary as a Russian agent. He does everything we've been saying he should do. It's like incredible. And he's moving with bills in the House to open up the, you know, close to 1,000 power plants they shut down. And I love how people always, when I was against shutting down coal plants, saying, oh, what do you own some coal? I own no natural gas or petrochemicals or oil. I have family that has some oil wells and gas wells. They'd make more money if coal was shut down. But they're all for having coal because they care about the country and cheap power. It's just, I love this feeling of you can't be for something unless it directly helps you. Yeah, I get cheaper electricity bills, but it's like not fair that America has expensive power and only Europe has expensive power and us and everybody else takes over because the globalists that made deals in the third world to control them. The globalists couldn't conquer Europe and the United States, so they went and made deals with the third world to transfer our jobs there. That's what Le Pen's talking about and Farage is talking about and Trump's talking about. And the globalists have been so arrogant, they throw it in people's faces. But so many people say, Alex, I don't care about coal. I don't own any coal stock. Or I don't care about the stock market up, you know, $2 trillion since Trump got in. I don't own any stock. I don't either. But most people that are my listeners and have jobs and work and own homes and have kids and have dreams and have tuitions to pay for, they're in the stock market or their company's in that. This is a very good thing. And so the Federal Reserve he's kicking out and putting new people in are trying to raise interest rates, and he's saying no. And they're pissed, but he's the president. He can say you're going to keep interest rates at zero for the American people so they get some of that free money. And I'm not a big fan of free money, but if the globalists have been getting it for decades while they bankrupt us and they're trying to implode things, it's a shot of adrenaline at the heart. It is like a defibrillator, electricity to the heart to get it going. And it's not like he's just giving money away. It's loans at 0% interest he wants to get or close to it to small businesses that are 80% of the new jobs in this country, like InfoWars. I don't do this for a business, but we use the business model to fund our operation. I mean, really, they see it as chump-like that I'm not Machiavelli, that I don't just want to dominate people with the knowledge I have. No, what's mentally ill is to have the knowledge to screw people and do it because you're just a human too. I don't want to live in that world. So I want to play this clip of Obama from 8 years and 2 months ago, right before he was in office, saying, if you want to build a coal plant, you can, but I'll bankrupt you. And he bankrupted almost 1,000 ones that were already in place, including a multi-billion-dollar plant built in Texas. Austin had helped build the plant for a decade, and Austin said, well, you're not allowed to sell it, we own it. And it sits dormant, one of the biggest coal power plants in the country, 60 miles south east of Texas, Fayetteville. It sits dormant, one of the biggest coal plants in the world, could power the whole city of Austin. And it sits dormant because taxpayers paid for it and the hijackers got in and they said, we're shutting it down. And who financed that? Big oil and big gas. They can't compete with coal. It's just too cheap. And I'm sorry for oil and gas. It's just you can't compete with it. We should have gasoline like the Germans did based on coal and gas be 30 cents a gallon, folks. The answer is cheap energy. Trump's committed to it, and he's tired of seeing you get a one-sided deal. That's why it's so good what he's doing. He signed an executive order 2 weeks ago, and they ignored it. He signed another one, killing Obamacare, $5,000 a person mandates. Told the IRS, you don't tell them to fill those forms out or pay that. And that was in the news yesterday. It was in like one news article, but not all over the big news. See? I mean, look, I love being the guy attacking the government or the executive, but the truth is the executive is a beachhead this big with all the globalists, all the foreign banks, all the power structures trying to bring back a system that isn't free market but is a monopoly screwing you over. So here's President Obama, who's now organizing this whole thing against Trump, saying he wants to bankrupt America's power supply.
Let me sort of describe my overall policy. I mean, what I've said is that we would put a cap and trade system in place that is as aggressive, if not more aggressive, than anybody else's out there. I was the first to call for 100% auction on the cap and trade system,
which he owns.
Which means that every
he actually owns part of the company you pay.
Carbon or greenhouse gases was emitted would be charged to the polluter.
Sounds like a good deal for you.
That will create a market in which whatever technologies are out there that are being presented, whatever power plants that are being built, that they would have to meet the rigors of that market.
Yeah, the select deals
to
you control
ratchet
if
it
you and your
down,
friends get the money.
Caps that are imposed every year. So if somebody wants to build a coal-powered plant, they can. It's just that it will bankrupt them because they're going to be charged a huge sum for all that greenhouse gas that's being emitted.
And of course, that's the greenhouse gas that plants breathe. So let's get this started because I want to watch this. I've not seen the whole thing. I watched part of it during breaks. I played clips of it during the show, but I also have children to go pick up after their sporting event exercise this evening in about an hour and a half. This is an hour and 18-minute event. So what's going to happen is, even though wild horses can't drag me away, I'm going to do about 30 minutes of this with commentary with the president, and then I'm going to bring in Owen Shroyer, whoever else wants to come in. But this is an hour and 18 minutes long, and quite frankly, I can't even give justice to how good this is. I mean, he's finally coming out and saying Hillary sold our uranium to Russia. Hillary met with Putin's secret. What the hell are you talking about? I'm some type of Russian agent. And he's exposing their scams and just everything they're doing on so many fronts. I mean, I've got the transcript here, and it's 36 pages long. And it just gets better and better. And he goes, listen, I'm going to revise what I call mainstream news, CNN, from fake news to, what do you say, super fake news? Total fake news? He had some term, because I was watching this live, you know, on the show, playing parts of it today, because obviously syndicated radio, you got to play the breaks for the stations and the network. So I missed a lot of this. So you're going to be seeing this with me right now. But let me just tell you, Trump is his own guy. It's totally true. Listen to rock and roll music. He gives me calls sometimes. I mean, they are crapping their globalist drawers because they want some guy they manage and who a bunch of special interests you can get to. They're trying to isolate him. Twitter's not letting all the positive comments go to the top. They admit that. Twitter's announcing all this other censorship, but quote conservatives. I'm not even conservative. I'm just pro-human. I mean, hell, I fought Bush. And they got CIA people saying overthrow Trump, kill him, all this stuff. I mean, this is an incredible time to be alive. So let's go ahead and start this press conference. And listen, be part of history. This is on Facebook Mentions. We're on that live right now, right? Are we on YouTube too? Can we break in and go on YouTube too? Well, it's all right. I mean, we don't even have the equipment. We're trying to buy the equipment. We're trying to upgrade everything. We got a great crew. We're doing live radio and TV and limited crew. Here's the deal. We don't monetize Facebook, just so you know. We don't make any money off this stuff on Facebook when you see Paul Watson on there with 20 million views. A show with 20 million views on CBS News makes about $20 million. We put something on Facebook. Go look this week. We've had videos with 18 million, 15 million, 10 million, 5 million, 4 million, 2 million. I mean, we've got 20 million views last week, so far this week, about 16 million views. Just on one Facebook channel. Everybody can go look at the video, see it for yourself. We didn't get any money for that. I'm not doing this for money. Like I explained, I don't own any coal stocks. I know our country's powered on it. I'm tired of seeing... I was going to my dad's uncle's funeral about 4 years ago, and I was driving there in the morning. It was in the afternoon, a funeral. I was about an hour out, and I was a little bit early, and I said, I'm going to pull over here to an old cafeteria called Luby's. I've been eating it since I was a kid. It's all over the state, and it was in Waco. And never before it, I sat there and watched old women just getting Jell-O and maybe a scoop of collard greens or something. Just they were all talking. I don't have money to buy it anymore. And it was like $2 of stuff they were buying. They couldn't even buy a Luann platter, you know, the King of the Hill makes jokes about. And I had the food there, and I paid them at the end and gave the food to a lady and had to leave because I had this big plate full of cheesesteak and meat and all this food just flowing over. And it wasn't some liberal moment where I felt sorry for them and I felt bad for myself. I was so sick I couldn't eat the food. And I wanted to give every bit of money I had to those like 80-year-old ladies because I grew up my whole life in line with old ladies at Luby's that could get a Luann platter and a piece of fish or a piece of beef and a couple sides and some iced tea and some Jell-O or a little piece of pie. And I just thought, what the hell happened to my country where Zuckerberg's got hundreds of billions of dollars and all these globalists do, and they say we should be poor, and they're a bunch of assholes trying to shut off our economy and admitting they want to make us poor. And it was a moment clicked in me where I hadn't eaten breakfast that morning when I left. I just didn't eat. I went to the funeral, didn't eat till that night at a family, wake. But it was a good sacrifice for those old ladies to make me think about, because I like to eat, while my stomach was growling there at the funeral, that these women are going hungry, and they might get to go out once a week to some place that they've been going to for decades, and now they can't even buy food, even though it's cheap. And that's what globalism is a big screw job by a bunch of assholes that think they're better than everybody, and then they go, oh, we're liberal, so it's okay. We got Foxconn labs for Apple with suicide nets. I'm done. I'm done with them saying, oh, you're decadent, you deserve to be austere, when they're 10 times more decadent than anybody I know. So this speech is powerful. But what I was getting at is, it's a sick joke that just one of our channels can get 20 million views a week. And then I'm sitting here trying to make ends meet to even fund our operation. It just shows everything's a scam. Because when Hollywood or something, Redstone puts something out with 20 million views, why, it's the biggest thing in the country. I was talking to the New York Times Business Journal, business page is coming out a few days ago, and I said, I don't know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you. How is it we have all these tens of millions of views every couple days, and that's not even celebrated, but when mainstream TV does, it's like it's the biggest thing on earth. And it's because it's all a big corporate scam propping up their system. I don't want to be the big swinging dick to be a stud and show off that I got the big show. I want to beat these people. And so does Trump. And he realizes there's something bigger than just having a bunch of money. And if you just rally against them, it's over for them. They're so arrogant, they think you're stupid. So instead of this live feed, like our average feed, having 500,000 views by the time it's over, tell everybody on Facebook and on YouTube and on Twitter and everywhere else right now that there's a key analysis of Trump's historic press conference, really sticking it to him. And what a great introduction this is a month into his presidency of what's going to come in the future. Because I've been saying every day, Trump, you need to hit Hillary and her Russian connections and not let them go after you. It's all made up, and he's doing it. And that's what's incredible, is there's not just evil in this universe, there's good as well, and we're starting to see it. Doesn't mean Trump's perfect, but he's not out to get us. So let's go ahead and go to this press conference from earlier today with the 45th president of the U.S., that CIA operatives and everybody else are on the news saying kill. On the news, they're saying kill him. Let's bring him out to rock and roll fanfare. Talk about pissing in their face. This is it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
He's like, this is different. This is different, folks. No more convention.
I just wanted to begin by mentioning that the nominee for Secretary of the Department of Labor will be Mr. Alex Acosta. He has a law degree from Harvard Law School. He's a great student. Former clerk for Justice Samuel Alito. And he has had a tremendous career. He's a member and has been a member of the National Labor Relations Board, and has been through Senate confirmation 3 times, confirmed, did very, very well. And so Alex, I've wished him the best. We just spoke, and he's going to be, I think he'll be a tremendous Secretary of Labor. And also, as you probably heard just a little while ago, Mick Mulvaney, a former congressman, has just been approved, weeks late, I have to say that, weeks late, Office of Management and Budget. And he will be, I think, a fantastic addition. Paul Singer just left. As you know, Paul was very much involved with the anti-Trump, or as they say, never Trump. And Paul just left, and he's given us his total support. And it's all about unification. We're unifying the party, and hopefully we're going to be able to unify the country. It's very important to me. I've been talking about that for a long time, but it's very, very important to me. So I want to thank Paul Singer for being here and for coming up to the office. He was a very strong opponent. And
no, this is strong info, but man, it gets really powerful.
And I appreciate that.
Coming up when the press conference starts.
Words, and then we'll take some
questions.
Talks
about the media right here. This is powerful.
And I had this time. We've been negotiating a lot of different transactions to save money on contracts that were terrible, including airplane contracts that were out of control.
He's already saved over $100 billion on that.
Terrible. Just absolutely catastrophic in terms of
By
what was
actually
happening.
negotiating.
And we've done some really good work. We're very proud of that. And then right after that, you prepare yourselves. We'll do some questions, unless you have no questions. That's always a possibility. I'm here today to update the American people on the incredible progress that has been made in the last 4 weeks since my inauguration. We have made incredible progress. I don't think there's ever been a president elected who in this short period of time has done what we've done. A new Rasmussen poll,
He's already on the path.
because the people get it. Much of the media doesn't get it. They actually get it, but they don't write it. Let's put it that way. But
Yeah, they're
a
bought and
new
paid for.
Rasmussen poll just came out just a very short while
5-point
ago,
surge.
and it has our approval rating at 55% and going up. The
That's
stock
even a Cook
market
poll.
has hit record numbers, as you know, and there has been a tremendous surge of optimism in the business world, which is, to me, means something much different than it used to. It used to mean, oh, that's good. Now it means that's good for jobs. Very different. Plants and factories are already starting to move back into the United States, and big league, Ford, General Motors, so many of them. I'm making this presentation directly to the American people.
Directly to the
with
American
media
people.
present, which is an honor to have you.
That's key. Right to the
This morning,
people.
because many of our nation's reporters and folks will not tell you the truth
Key.
and will not treat the wonderful people of our country with the respect
That's
that
right.
they deserve.
They don't respect us. They think
And I
we're
hope
the enemy.
going forward we can be a little bit different, and maybe get along a little bit better if that's possible.
Or maybe
it's
not.
and that's okay too.
That's okay.
Unfortunately, much of the media in Washington, D.C., along with New York, Los Angeles in particular, speaks not for the people, but for the special interests.
That's right.
And for those profiting off a very, very obviously broken system.
Key.
The press has become so dishonest that if we don't talk about it, we are doing a tremendous disservice to the
Yeah,
American
they act
people.
like
Tremendous
his national security
disservice. We have
advisor
to talk about it.
setting up calls with the Russians
Find
is
out what's
illegal.
going on, because
The
press,
president can make
honestly, is out of
treaties with
control.
foreigners.
The level of dishonesty is out of control.
I mean,
I ran for president to represent the citizens of our country. I am here to change the broken system so it serves their families and their communities well. I am talking and really talking on this very entrenched power structure.
So
and
key.
what we're doing is we're talking about the power structure.
God, this is
We're
so
talking
huge.
about its entrenchment.
This is total rebellion
As a
against evil.
result, the media is going through what they have to go through.
Yeah, he's
to
openly saying there's a
oftentimes
foreign power
distort-
structure.
Not all the time.
This
And
is so
some of
huge.
the media is fantastic, I have to say. They're honest and fantastic. But much of it is not. The distortion, and we'll talk about it. You'll be able to ask me questions about it. But we're not going to let it happen, because I'm here again to take my message straight to the people. As you know, our administration inherited many problems across government and across the economy. To be honest, I inherited a mess. It's a mess. At home and abroad, a mess. Jobs are pouring out of the country. You see what's going on with all of the companies leaving our country, going to Mexico and other places. Low pay, low wages, mass instability overseas, no matter where you look. The Middle East, a disaster.
By
North
design.
Korea, we'll take care of it, folks. We're going to take care of it all. I just want to let you know, I inherited a mess. Beginning on day one, our administration went to work to tackle these challenges. On foreign affairs, we've already begun enormously productive talks with many foreign leaders, much of it you've covered, to move forward towards stability, security, and peace in the most troubled regions of the world, of which there are many. We have had great conversations with the United Kingdom and meetings, Israel, Mexico, Japan, China, and Canada. Really, really productive conversations. I would say far more productive than you would understand. We've even developed a new council with Canada to promote women's business leaders and entrepreneurs. Very important to me, very important to my daughter Ivanka. I have directed our defense community, headed by our great general, now Secretary Mattis. He's over there now working very hard to submit a plan for the defeat of ISIS, a group that celebrates the murder and torture of innocent people in large sections of the world. It used to be a small group, now it's in large sections of the world. They've spread like cancer. ISIS has spread like cancer. Another mess I inherited. And we have imposed new sanctions on the nation of Iran, who's totally taken advantage of our previous administration. And they're the world's top sponsor of terrorism. And we're not going to stop until that problem is properly solved. And it's not properly solved now. It's one of the worst agreements I've ever seen drawn by anybody. I've ordered plans to begin for the massive rebuilding of the United States military. I've had great support from the Senate. I've had great support from Congress generally. We've pursued this rebuilding in the hopes that we will never have to use this military.
Again, they use the U.S. to build world government. Why they
will tell
degrade
you,
us, and Trump gets their whole plan.
That is I would be so happy.
This
if
is
we
so
never had
good,
to
and they
use
don't
it.
want you to see this. And I'm just going to leave you with him.
Our country
And I'm going to let one of the
will
other crew
never
come in
have
at the
had
end and
a
just comment on
military
this.
like the
And then I'm
military
going to be back later commenting
we're
on it.
about
But let's just go back to the president.
to build and
because it just
rebuild.
gets better and better with him exposing Hillary
We're
as
the
a Russian
greatest
spy.
people on earth in our military.
Infowars.com/show.
The right
Please support us.
and
Please
their
spread this
equipment is
video.
old.
Please support the broadcast. We're under
I used
attack.
it.
Back to President
I
Trump.
talked
This is
about
history
it
happening.
At every stop. Depleted. It's depleted. It won't be depleted for long. And I think one of the reasons I'm standing here instead of other people is that, frankly, I talked about we have to have a strong military. We have to have strong law enforcement also. So we do not go abroad in the search of war. We really are searching for peace, but it's peace through strength. At home, we have begun the monumental task of returning the government back to the people on a scale not seen in many, many years. In each of these actions, I'm keeping my promises to the American people. These are campaign promises. Some people are so surprised that we're having strong borders. Well, that's what I've been talking about for a year and a half, strong borders. They're so surprised. Oh, he having strong borders. Well, that's what I've been talking about to the press and to everybody else. One promise after another, after years of politicians lying to you to get elected. They lied to the American people in order to get elected. Some of the things I'm doing probably aren't popular, but they're necessary for security and for other reasons. And then coming to Washington and pursuing their own interests, which is more important to many politicians. I'm here following through on what I pledged to do. That's all I'm doing. I put it out before the American people, got 306 electoral college votes. I wasn't supposed to get 222. They said there's no way to get 222. 230 is impossible. 270, which you need, that was laughable. We got 306 because people came out and voted like they've never seen before. So that's the way it goes. I guess it was the biggest electoral college win since Ronald Reagan. In other words, the media is trying to attack our administration because they know we are following through on pledges that we made, and they're not happy about it for whatever reason. But a lot of people are happy about it. In fact, I'll be in Melbourne, Florida at 5 o'clock on Saturday, and I just heard that the crowds are massive that want to be there. I turn on the TV, open the newspapers, and I see stories of chaos. Chaos. Yet it is the exact opposite. This administration is running like a fine-tuned machine, despite the fact that I can't get my cabinet approved. And they're outstanding people, like Senator Dan Coates, who's there, one of the most respected men in the Senate. He can't get approved. How do you not approve him? He's been a colleague, highly respected, brilliant guy, great guy. Everybody knows it. We're waiting for approval. So we have a wonderful group of people that's working very hard, that's being very much misrepresented about, and we can't let that happen. So if the Democrats who have, all you have to do is look at where they are right now. The only thing they can do is delay, because they've screwed things up royally, believe me. Let me list to you some of the things that we've done in just a short period of time. I just got here. I got here with no cabinet. Again, each of these actions is a promise I made to the American people. So we'll go over just some of them, and we have a lot happening next week and in the weeks coming. We've withdrawn from the job-killing disaster known as Trans-Pacific Partnership. We're going to make trade deals, but we're going to have one-on-one deals, bilateral. We're going to have one-on-one deals. We've directed the elimination of regulations that undermine manufacturing and called for expedited approval of the permits needed for America and American infrastructure. And that means plant, equipment, roads, bridges, factories. People take 10, 15, 20 years to get disapproved for a factory. They go in for a permit. It's many, many years. And then at the end of the process, they spend tens of millions of dollars on nonsense. And at the end of the process, they get rejected. Now, they may be rejected with me, but it's going to be a quick rejection. Not going to take years. But mostly, it's going to be an acceptance. We want plants built, and we want factories built, and we want the jobs. We don't want the jobs going to other countries. We've imposed a hiring freeze on non-essential federal workers. We've imposed a temporary moratorium on new federal regulations. We've issued a game-changing new rule that says for each one new regulation, 2 old regulations must be eliminated. Makes sense. Nobody's ever seen regulations like we have. You go to other countries and you look at industries they have and you say, let me see your regulations. And they're a fraction, just a tiny fraction of what we have. And I want regulations because I want safety, I want all environmental situations to be taken properly care of. It's very important to me. But you don't need 4 or 5 or 6 regulations to take care of the same thing. We've stood up for the men and women of law enforcement, directing federal agencies to ensure they are protected from crimes of violence. We've directed the creation of a task force for reducing violent crime in America, including the horrendous situation, take a look at Chicago and others, taking place right now in our inner cities. Horrible. We've ordered the Department of Homeland Security and Justice to coordinate on a plan to destroy criminal cartels coming into the United States with drugs. We're becoming a drug-infested nation. Drugs are becoming cheaper than candy bars, and we're not going to let it happen any longer. We've undertaken the most substantial border security measures in a generation to keep our nation and our tax dollars safe, and are now in the process of beginning to build a promised wall on the southern border. Met with General, now Secretary Kelly, yesterday, and we're starting that process. And the wall is going to be a great wall, and it's going to be a wall negotiated by me. The price is going to come down just like it has on everything else I've negotiated for the government. And we're going to have a wall that works. We're not going to have a wall like they have now, which is either non-existent or a joke. We've ordered a crackdown on sanctuary cities that refuse to comply with federal law and that harbor criminal aliens, and we've ordered an end to the policy of catch and release on the border. No more release. No matter who you are, release. We've begun a nationwide effort to remove criminal aliens, gang members, drug dealers, and others who pose a threat to public safety. We are saving American lives every single day. Court system has not made it easy for us. And are even creating a new office in Homeland Security dedicated to the forgotten American victims of illegal immigrant violence, of which there are many. We've taken decisive action to keep radical Islamic terrorists out of our country. Though parts of our necessary and constitutional actions were blocked by a judge's, in my opinion, incorrect and unsafe ruling, our administration is working night and day to keep you safe, including reporters safe, and is vigorously defending this lawful order. I will not back down from defending our country. I got elected on defense of our country, and I keep my campaign promises. And our citizens will be very happy when they see the result. They already are, I can tell you that. Extreme vetting will be put in place, and it already is in place in many places. In fact, we had to go quicker than we thought because of the bad decision we received from a circuit that has been overturned at a record number. I've heard 80%. I find that hard to believe. That's just a number I heard, that they're overturned 80% of the time. I think that circuit is in chaos, and that circuit is frankly in turmoil. But we are appealing that, and we are going further. We're issuing a new executive action next week that will comprehensively protect our country. So we'll be going along the one path and hopefully winning that. At the same time, we will be issuing a new and very comprehensive order to protect our people. And that'll be done sometime next week, toward the beginning or middle at the latest part. We've also taken steps to begin construction of the Keystone Pipeline and Dakota Access Pipelines, thousands and thousands of jobs, and put new Buy American measures in place to require American steel for American pipelines. In other words, they build a pipeline in this country, and we use the powers of government to make that pipeline happen. We want them to use American steel. And they're willing to do that, but nobody ever asked before I came along. Even this order was drawn, and they didn't say that. And I'm reading the order. I'm saying, why aren't we using American steel? And they said, that's a good idea. We put it in. To drain the swamp of corruption in Washington, D.C., I've started by imposing a 5-year lobbying ban on White House officials and a lifetime ban on lobbying for a foreign government. We've begun preparing to repeal and replace Obamacare. Obamacare is a disaster, folks. It's a disaster. You know, you can say, oh, Obamacare. I mean, they fill up our rallies with people that you wonder how they get there, but they're not the Republican people that our representatives are representing. So we've begun preparing to repeal and replace Obamacare and are deep in the midst of negotiations on a very historic tax reform to bring our jobs back. We're going to bring our jobs back to this country, big league. It's already happening, but big league. I've also worked to install a cabinet over the delays and obstruction of Senate Democrats. You've seen what they've done over the last long number of years. That will be one of the great cabinets ever assembled in American history. You look at Rex Tillerson, is out there negotiating right now. General Mattis, I mentioned before, General Kelly. We have great, great people. Mick is with us now. We have great people. Among their responsibilities will be ending the bleeding of jobs from our country and negotiating fair trade deals for our citizens. Now look, fair trade, not free, fair. If a country is taking advantage of us, we're not going to let that happen anymore. Now, every country takes advantage of us, almost. I may be able to find a couple that don't, but for the most part, that would be a very tough job for me to do. Jobs have already started to surge. Since my election, Ford announced it will abandon its plans to build a new factory in Mexico and will instead invest $700 million in Michigan, creating many, many jobs. Fiat Chrysler announced it will invest $1 billion in Ohio and Michigan, creating 2,000 new American jobs. They were with me a week ago. You know, you were here. General Motors likewise committed to invest billions of dollars in its American manufacturing operation, keeping many jobs here that were going to leave And if I didn't get elected, believe me, they would have left. And these jobs and these things that I'm announcing would never have come here. Intel just announced that it will move ahead with a new plant in Arizona that probably was never going to move ahead with. And that will result in at least 10,000 American jobs. Walmart announced it will create 10,000 jobs in the United States just this year because of our.
Once again, you guys are with Infowars.com, the Alex
initiatives.
Jones channel. This is a
There'll be
live
many more,
Facebook
many more. These are a
mentions.
few
Owen
that we're
Shroyer
naming.
and Millie Weaver with you.
Other countries
This is
have been
Donald
taking
Trump
advantage
talking
of
about
us
how he's bringing jobs
for
back to
decades,
America to make
decades
America
and
great again.
decades and
And these are
decades,
things that you would
folks.
think would be nonpartisan,
And we're
that
not gonna let
everybody
that
could
happen
agree
anymore.
on. But for
Not
some
gonna let
reason,
that
the left won't even give him a chance. Let's go back to
And
Donald
one
Trump
more
before we
thing.
get into some of this
I have
commentary.
kept my promise to the American people by nominating a justice of the United States Supreme Court, Judge Neil Gorsuch, who is from my list of 20 and who will be a true defender of our laws
You know, Millie,
and our
he
Constitution.
opens up this statement
highly respected.
saying how he kept
Should
his
get the
promise
votes
to
for
the
the
American
Democrats. You
people.
may not
And that's
see
something
that,
that
but
he's done in triplicate
there one
that I
way or
think
the
has
other.
kind of shocked the media. They
But
don't
he
know
should
how to
get
cover it.
there the old-fashioned way.
Exactly. I mean,
And
he
he should get
even
those
spoke
votes.
on how the amount
This
of work
last
that
month
he's
has
done in
represented
this
an
small amount of
unprecedented degree
time
of
is
action on behalf of
unprecedented. We have
the
not
great
seen any
citizens of our
presidential
country.
candidate really coming
Again,
into
I
office
say it,
ready
there's
to
never been a
work and ready to,
presidency
do
that's
things
done so much in such
to
a short
fulfill
period
those
of time.
campaign promises.
He's
we
making.
haven't
He's
even
also
started the
making the
big work.
Democrats and the
That
liberal
starts
media work even
early next
harder
week.
because they got to try to cover all these
Some very big
promises he's
things are gonna
keeping
be
up.
announced next week.
He's talking about big things being
So we're
announced
just
next
getting
week. Let's go back to
started.
Donald
We
Trump.
will be giving a speech, as I said, in Melbourne, Florida, at 5 p.m. I hope to see you there. And with that, I just say, God bless America, and let's take some questions. Mara, go ahead. You were cut off pretty violently at our last news conference. Mike Flynn is a fine person, and I asked for his resignation. He respectfully gave it. He is a man who there was a certain amount of information given to Vice President Pence, who's with us today, and I was not happy with the way that information was given. He didn't have to do that because what he did wasn't wrong. What he did in terms of the information he saw, what was wrong was the way that other people, including yourselves in this room, were given that information. Because that was classified information. It was given illegally. That's the real problem. And, you can talk all you want about Russia, which was all a, fake news fabricated deal to try and make up for the loss of the Democrats, and the press plays right into it. In fact, I saw a couple of the people that were supposedly involved with all of this. They know nothing about it. They weren't in Russia. They never made a phone call to Russia. They never received a phone call.
Let's actually pause it right there
It's
for
all
a
fake
second,
news.
guys, because this is a key point he brings up about Russia and them influencing the election as fake news. Now, obviously, it's fake news because they are yet to prove this alleged theory that Russia is hacking and providing WikiLeaks with information. I mean, that's it. There's really nothing else. They didn't prove that they hacked or even claim that they hacked the actual election process. But this is something they're still pushing, Millie. They haven't given this Russian narrative up. And as Trump talks about Mike Flynn and how he asked for his resignation, in my opinion, this is Trump now kowtowing to fake news. And I know we don't have to agree with everything Trump says, but to me, he's sitting here saying, okay, well, the whole Russian thing was fake news, but yet I still kind of have to cater to it because of the media, and Mike Flynn had to resign. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the whole thing with Russia is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Donald Trump himself has even come on there saying how, it's just more attempts to try and discredit him, and they're just mad that they lost. And more on, the Democratic Party getting away from how they made it into this big, giant thing where, sanctions had to be put on Russia because there were leaks that happened. Yet at the same time, the media doesn't seem to care that these leaks happened within the government.
So this is Russian hacking fake news. And what happened was it died for a minute, and then it came back. It made a second wave, and then it kind of died again. And now it's coming back with the whole Mike Flynn thing. But it's interesting to hear Trump address that, admit it's fake news, kind of softly have Mike Flynn's back, not really big league, But it's like, Flynn didn't really do anything wrong, but I had to ask him to resign because of the way him and Mike Pence had their dialogue or whatever. It was confusing. But it's just interesting at least he's willing to call out the fake news. And I wonder if this Russian thing will ever be put to bed. I doubt it. Let's go back to Donald Trump as he's going to finish up this statement, and then he's going to start taking questions.
Fake news. The nice thing is I see it starting to turn where people are now looking at the illegal. All right, I think it's very important. The illegal giving out classified information. It was, and let me just tell you, it was given out like so much. I'll give you an example. I called, as you know, Mexico. It was a very, very confidential classified call, but I called Mexico. And in calling Mexico, I figured, oh, well, I spoke to the president of Mexico, had a good call. All of a sudden, it's out for the world to see. It's supposed to be secret. It's supposed to be either confidential or classified in that case. Same thing with Australia. All of a sudden, people are finding out exactly
so
what took
let's
place.
Pause it here real quick, because this is another key thing he's talking about. He's alluding to leaks coming from inside his administration. That's what he's alluding to right now. And, even though Mike Flynn resigned, the intelligence or the opinions or whatever it is that Mike Flynn shared with President Trump, you cannot erase that from Trump's memory bank. So hopefully some of that stuff stood with him. I think it's sad that, Mike Flynn gets cast aside. They're going to continue to try to castrate him politically while criminals like Chuck Schumer are hopping around, continuing to foment all this anti-Trump stuff. But it's just interesting to me, Millie, how he's here talking about inside leaks coming from inside the White House. I mean, this is the deep state now, and the president is covering it during a press conference.
Exactly. It's a major problem. And, there was some speculation that some of these leaks are from spies that Obama put in his last days in the White House. He was working toward, doing whatever he could to undermine Trump's presidency. And that's just what we're seeing. We're seeing leaks happening and sabotage. That's really what we're trying to see. We're seeing sabotage. This is from the Obama administration still working from within with their spies.
The Obama administration leftovers and the Republican establishment neocons that are with the globalists. That's who is spying on Donald Trump. But for some reason, he still seems to have Rinso Priebus's back. Let's go back to President Trump.
With respect to General Flynn, everybody saw this. And I'm saying, the first thing I thought of when I heard about it is, how does the press get this information that's classified? How do they do it? You know why? Because it's an illegal process, and the press should be ashamed of themselves. But more importantly, the people that gave out the information to the press should be ashamed of themselves. Really ashamed. Yes, go ahead. Because when I looked at the information, I said, I don't think he did anything wrong. If anything, he did something right. He was coming into office. He looked at the information. He said, that's fine. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be, and he didn't just call Russia. He called and spoke to both ways. I think there were 30-some-odd countries. He's doing the job. He was just doing his job. The thing is, he didn't tell our vice president properly, and then he said he didn't remember. So either way, it wasn't very satisfactory to me. And I have somebody that I think will be outstanding for the position. And that also helps, I think, in the making of my decision.
And if we could pause it real quick right there, I want to point something out, because he talks about these leaks and he's saying you should be ashamed of yourself if you leaked them. But you know what? At the same time, let's take a bite of humble pie. We relied heavily on WikiLeaks to judge our vote in the upcoming election. Okay, so if you want to demonize the people that leaked it or not, okay, you know what? That's perhaps your opinion. Here's the big difference to me. We were able to see the context of the WikiLeaks. We actually got to read the WikiLeaks emails. So it wasn't just like they said, we have these emails and it shows John Podesta has weird code language. It shows Hillary Clinton colluding with media. It shows Hillary Clinton using the State Department to increase her wealth. No, Millie, we actually
Yeah.
got to read the emails to prove that. They haven't released this transcript.
And not to mention the fact that the contents of the WikiLeaks emails, it had some pretty damning evidence. I mean, that was some pretty bad dirt that was dug up on them. It had them calling, Hispanics Taco Bowl voters. It had them doing some of the
keep 'em
most
dumb.
slimy things, the Podesta emails. We just saw so many bad things there. Whereas this leak with, Flynn talking to a Russian ambassador about trying to remove sanctions that Obama put in the last days he was in office for Obama's claims that Russia was involved in the DNC leaks. So what's so wrong about wanting to remove those sanctions if, in fact, Trump would know if, in fact, the Russians did have something to do with it or not? So what's so wrong about wanting to remove those sanctions that Obama put, which were probably, wrong in the first place?
And it's just, again, it's interesting to me. And this could actually work either way. This could work against General Flynn or for General Flynn, but they didn't release the transcripts. So, we don't know what's in the transcript, what the actual body of the dialogue was. We can only assume based on what they're telling us. Trump obviously recognizes it, though, so I'm not denying it happened. It's just interesting how there's the dynamic difference between the WikiLeaks and this leak, or alleged leak, I suppose, where we can read the context, know for ourselves, versus we have to trust the media we already don't trust to run with this story. It's just an interesting paradigm difference between those two leaks. Let's go back to President Trump.
Tell the Vice President of the United States the facts, and then he didn't remember. And that just wasn't acceptable to me. Yes.
Since you brought up Russia, I'm looking for some clarification here.
So Trump is taking questions now.
Did anyone from your team communicate with members of the Russian government or Russian intelligence? And if so, what were the nature of those conversations?
Yeah. Well, the failing New York Times wrote a big, long front-page story yesterday. And it was very much discredited, as you know.
Typical.
It's a joke. And the people mentioned the story. I noticed they were on television today saying they never even spoke to Russia. They weren't even a part, really. I mean, there was such a minor part. I hadn't spoken to them. I think the one person, I don't think I've ever spoken to him. I don't think I've ever met him. And he actually said he was a very low-level member of, I think, a committee for a short period of time. I don't think I ever met him. Now, it's possible that I walked into a room and he was sitting there, but I don't think I ever met him. I didn't talk to him ever, and he thought it was a joke. The other person said he never spoke to Russia, never received a call, look at his phone records, et cetera, et cetera. And the other person, people knew that he represented various countries, but I don't think he represented Russia, but knew that he represented various countries. That's what he does. I mean, people know that. That's Mr. Manafort, who's, by the way, a respected man. He's a respected man. But I think he represented the Ukraine or Ukraine government or somebody. But people knew that. Everybody knew that. So these people, and he said that he has absolutely nothing to do and never has with Russia. And he said that very forcefully. I saw his statement. He said it very forcefully. Most of the papers don't print it because that's not good for their stories. So the three people that they talked about all totally deny it. And I can tell you, speaking for myself, I own nothing in Russia. I have no loans in Russia. I don't have any deals in Russia. President Putin called me up very nicely to congratulate me on the win of the election. He then called me up extremely nicely to congratulate me on the inauguration, which was terrific. But so did many other leaders, almost all other leaders from almost all other countries. So that's the extent.
Wait a second. Hold on right
Russia
there. Is he alluding to not getting a call from Hillary Clinton? Is that what he's talking about? Because let's recall, Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton took the biggest, fattest dump on America while she was, no, for real. Hillary Clinton did nothing but take a fat crap on this country when she was in the State Department. She did nothing but take a fat crap on Haiti when she was the First Lady. And then, just to rub your nose in it one more time, all of you lamos that were still following her, she took a fat dump on you and didn't even come out to say hello or make a speech the night she lost. What a sore loser. And I think that that's what Trump is talking about here. He says almost all leaders from almost all of the country. I think he is specifically talking about Hillary Clinton, the spoiled, rotten pig witch that had a conniption fit because she didn't win the election that was supposed to be rigged for her. Okay? So I just wanted to point that out. I think that's what Donald Trump is talking about. And just remind the Hillary voters, oh yeah, where was Hillary when she lost the election and all of her constituents waited for hours to see her speak? Millie, any comments?
Yeah, I mean, her tweets that she tweeted out after the Flynn thing happened, basically insinuating that this was revenge. This was her revenge. Like, she's still plotting and scheming like some kind of a psychopath.
I can't believe her activity on Twitter. She tweeted after the Ninth Circuit Court judges ruling against the Trump travel ban 3-0. Actually, you're 3-0. Yeah. You lost the election, you lost the recount, and then you lost the second recount. Of course, you lost to Obama, too. So I guess that makes you 0 for 4, Hillary. Get off of Twitter. You're the one that should be off Twitter, not Trump. But actually, you know what? Stay on Twitter because we enjoy making fun of your tweets. You get absolutely destroyed. Let's go back to Donald Trump talking about Russian fake news.
That's the extent. Russia is fake news. This is fake news put out by the media. The real news is the fact that people, probably from the Obama administration, because they're there, because we have our new people going in place right now. As you know, Mike Pompeo is now taking control of the CIA. James Comey at FBI.
Oh, no John Brennan.
Coates is waiting to be approved. I mean, he is
the
a
wahhabiist John Brennan.
Oh, no. And he's still waiting to be approved. But our new people are going in. And just while you're at it, because you mentioned this, Wall Street Journal did a story today that was almost as disgraceful as the failing New York Times' story yesterday. And it talked about, you saw it front page. So, Director of National Intelligence just put out, acting, a statement. Any suggestion that the United States intelligence community, this was just given to us, is withholding information and not providing the best possible intelligence to the president and his national security team is not true. So they took this front page story out of the Wall Street Journal, top, and they just wrote the story that it's not true. And I'll tell you something, I'll be honest, because I sort of enjoy this back and forth, and I guess I have all my life, but I've never seen more dishonest media than, frankly, the political media. I thought the financial media was much better, much more honest. But I will say that I never get phone calls from the media. How do they write a story like that in the Wall Street Journal without asking me? Or how do they write a story in the New York Times, put it on front page? That was like the story they wrote about the women and me. Front page, big, massive story. And it was nasty. And then they called, they said, we never said that. We like Mr. Trump. They called up my office. We like Mr. Trump. We never said that. And it was they totally misrepresented those very wonderful women. I have to tell you, totally misrepresented. I said, give us a retraction. They never gave us a retraction. And frankly, I then went on to other things. Okay, go ahead. You okay?
Is there a doctor in the house? Doctor in the house.
Electoral votes. In fact, President Obama got 365.
Well, I'm talking about Republican. Yeah.
Obama 300.
Yeah.
George H.W. Bush 426 when he won as president. So why should Americans trust?
Well, no, I was given that information. I don't know. I was just given. We had a very, very big margin.
I guess my question is, why should Americans trust you when you accuse the information they receive of being fake when you're providing information?
Well, I don't know. I was given that information. I've seen that information around, but it was a very substantial victory. Do you agree with that? Okay, thank you. That's a good answer. Yes. Good, sure.
Can you tell us, in determining that Lieutenant General Flynn did general wrongdoing in your mind, what evidence was weighed? Did you ask for transcripts of these telephone intercepts?
This is a question about General Flynn and the transcripts.
What evidence did you weigh to determine that there was no wrongdoing? Further to that, sir, you said on a couple of occasions this morning you're going to aggressively pursue the source of these leaks.
We are.
Can we ask what we're going to do, and also you've heard about a review of the intelligence community and then see the fine work of the
Well, first of all, about that, we now have Dan Coates, hopefully soon, Mike Pompeo and James Comey, and they're in position. So I hope that we'll be able to straighten that out without using anybody else. The gentleman you mentioned is a very talented man, very successful man, and he has offered his services, and you know, it's something we may take advantage of, but I don't think we'll need that at all because of the fact that, you know, I think that we're going to be able to straighten it out very easily on its own. As far as the general's concerned, when I first heard about it, I said, that doesn't sound wrong. My counsel came, Don McGahn, White House counsel, and he told me, and I asked him, and he can speak very well for himself. He said he doesn't think anything is wrong. He really didn't think, it was really what happened after that, but he didn't think anything was done wrong. I didn't either, because I waited a period of time and I started to think about it. I said, well, I don't see, to me, he was doing the job. The information was provided by, who I don't know, Sally Yates, and I was a little surprised because I said, doesn't sound like he did anything wrong there, but he did something wrong with respect to the vice president, and I thought that was not acceptable. As far as the actual making the call, in fact, I've watched various programs and I've read various articles where he was just doing his job. That was very normal. You know, first everybody got excited because they thought he did something wrong. After they thought about it, it turned out he was just doing his job. So, and I do, and by the way, with all of that being said, I do think he's a fine man. Yes, John.
All right, let's pause it right there. Let's pause right there. So the two big things that came out of that response, and it was tough to hear the question, is that Donald Trump apparently has not seen the transcript from the phone call, but he also said that they are going to look into whoever it was that leaked the transcript from that phone call, basically the spy. So he hasn't seen the transcript, but he says that the Trump administration is working on finding out who the leaker of that transcript was. I just wanted to make sure we made that clear before we moved on to the next question. So let's go ahead and move on to the next question for President Trump.
Go ahead, finish off, then I'll get you, John.
What will you do on the leaks you said twice today?
Yes, we're looking at them very serious. I've gone to all of the folks in charge of the various agencies, and I've actually called the Justice Department to look into the leaks. Those are criminal leaks. They're put out by people either in agencies. I think you'll see it stopping because now we have our people in. You know, again, we don't have our people in because we can't get them approved by the Senate. We just had Jeff Sessions approved in Justice as an example. So we are looking into that very seriously. It's a criminal act. You know what I say? When I was called out on Mexico, I was shocked because all this equipment, all this incredible phone equipment. When I was called out on Mexico, I was really surprised. But I said, you know, it doesn't make sense. That won't happen. But that wasn't that important to call. It was fine. I could show it to the world, and he could show it to the world. The president, who's a very fine man, by the way. Same thing with Australia. I said, that's terrible that it was leaked, but it wasn't that important. But then I said to myself, what happens when I'm dealing with the problem of North Korea? What happens when I'm dealing with the problems in the Middle East? Are you folks going to be reporting all of that very confidential information, very important, very, you know, I mean, at the highest level? Are you going to be reporting about that too? So I don't want classified information getting out to the public. And in a way,
let's
that
pause
was
it right
almost a
there.
test.
This is a very important point from Donald Trump. And this is the key difference between the WikiLeaks and the, I suppose, leaked transcript from the phone call. So what Donald Trump is alluding to here is essentially you have most likely an intelligence agency, but somebody tapping the phone calls coming out of the White House. So that's what Donald Trump is talking about. He's basically saying, look, I guess somebody is listening to every conversation we're having, and are they going to start leaking out highly classified, highly confidential, very important security information to people? Are they listening to everything? Are they just nitpicking to find ways to try to tear me down? So you've got that going on, which is very serious in the White House, versus what we believe was a WikiLeaks result of somebody from within the actual DNC just wanting, who actually had access to the emails.
He was a whistleblower.
Exactly.
The person was a whistleblower trying to
not a spy.
Yeah, there's a difference between spying and being a whistleblower, and that whistleblower had legal access most likely to that information. Whereas, you know, this is a major national security threat. The fact that anyone, we don't know exactly who, but could be hacking the president's phone conversations, because just as he said, you don't know if it contains classified information. And I find it a bit ironic that all these Democrats were calling for an investigation into Trump and his administration regarding Russia when they were using a tweet from a fake Flynn account. Did you see that?
Oh,
where
with Pelosi?
Nancy Pelosi.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
The woman is senile. They want to, look at this. They sit here and they say Donald Trump is deranged. Meanwhile, they send you out Hillary Clinton, who has fainting spells, brain damage, coughing attacks. They send out Nancy Pelosi. She doesn't even know what planet she's on. She's so senile. And then Maxine Waters, who's talking about somebody giving bongs to people in Syria. At least that's what it sounds like. So Trump's deranged. Meanwhile, you send out the most deranged politicians that you can find, Clinton, Pelosi, and Waters. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And this is, I mean, look, personally, for me, this is the epitome of draining the swamp. I mean, this is the swamp. Whoever it is that is spying on Donald Trump and trying to undermine him with whatever classified information they can get over these phone calls, that is the swamp, man. Donald, take off the gloves. Look, here's what I'm hoping, Millie, to be honest with you. I don't think you can drain the swamp with one fell swoop. I think the only way that the swamp can truly be drained is just by finding each goblin that occupies the swamp. You're probably only gonna be able to just find them one by one. But if you find the right one, that goblin is going to sing for days.
Well, that's what some people were actually speculating, is that this was maybe a way to out whoever was spying by kind of, you know, offering up Flynn in a way. You know, some people are speculating that this could be some internal thing that maybe there's a cover story for, and maybe this is a way to try and out and find out who,
like a rat trap.
Exactly, a rat trap. And they're saying that this may actually lead directly back to Obama himself.
Well, I'm hoping that, like I said, you find the right goblin and you get him to sing. Who put you up to this? Who else is in on it? And then all of these other goblins are going to start fearing for their political lives, and they're going to scurry back under cover and quit going operational. Let's go back to President Trump.
Information getting out to the public, and in a way that was almost a test. So I'm dealing with Mexico. I'm dealing with Argentina. We were dealing on this case with Mike Flynn. All this information gets put into the Washington Post and gets put into the New York Times. And I'm saying, what's going to happen when I'm dealing on the Middle East? What's going to happen when I'm dealing with really, really important subjects like North Korea?
I'm glad he's thinking about North Korea. Nobody wants to talk about it.
That's why it's a criminal penalty. Yes, John.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to get you clarified this very important point. Can you say definitively that no one under campaign had any contact with the Russians during the campaign? And all of these, is it fake news or are these real leaks?
Well, the leaks are real. You're the one that wrote about them and reported them. I mean, the leaks are real. You know what they said. You saw it. And the leaks are absolutely real. The news is fake because so much of the news is fake. So one thing that I felt it was very important to do, and I hope we can correct it, because there's nobody I have more respect for, well, maybe a little bit, but than reporters, than good reporters. It's very important to me, and especially in this position. It's
Yeah,
very
especially
important.
now.
I don't mind bad stories. I can handle a bad story better than anybody, as long as it's true. And, you know, over a course of time, I'll make mistakes and you'll write badly, and I'm okay with that. But I'm not okay when it is fake. I mean, I watch CNN, it's so much anger and hatred and just the hatred. I don't watch it anymore because it's very good. He's saying no. It's okay, Jim. It's okay, Jim. You'll have your chance. But I watch others too. You're not the only one, so don't feel bad. But I think it should be straight. I think it should be. I think it would be frankly.
Well, you know,
more
let's just pause it right there. Let's pause it right there. I actually want to get everyone's opinion on this right now. I want everyone, even you guys back there. Okay. Yeah. This is a serious thing that we deal with here, because, I mean, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. CNN is always on at my house. I monitor the news 24/7 at my house. CNN is one of the stations that I have on constantly. And we monitor CNN. It's part of what we do here at Infowars.com, monitoring the propaganda. But I want to ask everyone. I want to ask you, Millie, Josh, I don't know, Zimmerman, everyone that's out there. Is it now time to 100% pull the plug on CNN? Raise your hands. I can only see you guys back there. I don't know. Okay, wow. What do you think? Should we, even including ourselves? Okay, so thinks that we should keep CNN going to just have them there as a litmus test to kind of monitor the fake news propaganda, which is what we've been doing for so long. So I completely agree.
But he did bring up that Venezuela actually did kick out CNN.
That's right. Venezuela, the communist country, did kick CNN out. That's kind of ironic. The Communist News Network banned.
And it is important, though, for us to maintain freedom of speech, because imagine if it were the other way around and we had Hillary Clinton as the president and she was calling for a ban or to kick out,
well, but that's the thing, though. We're not calling for a ban or censoring CNN. I'm just a good old capitalism boycott, send them out of business.
Yeah.
What about Josh and Zimmerman? What do you guys think? Is it time to just completely ignore CNN? Zimmerman says it's very entertaining, so he's going to keep tuning in for entertainment. What about you, Josh? CNN, Josh gives CNN credit for starting the 24 Hours News Network. I think he might have a little bit of a chub on right now for CNN because he likes the entertainment aspect.
I personally
likes their B-roll.
I personally think
we lost the feed. Oh, no. CNN lost the feed.
Yeah. Oh, darn.
But you know what? It's funny.
We're cutting you out.
It's funny because he he mentioned Jim Acosta there in that little response. Jim is going to come back up. Why does Jim Acosta continue to go to these things? I mean, this is just like he's getting raked across the coals anytime he tries to ask President Trump a question. So let's go back to President Trump in the press conference.
I think it would be frankly more
50 Shades of Trump for Jim Acosta.
Everybody's ratings are right now, but I think that'd actually be better. People, I mean, you have a lower approval rate than
Bingo.
Congress.
You know what, hold it real quick.
Right.
That's exactly it right there. That is exactly it right there. CNN's ratings are tanking. InfoWars is going to hit 20 million subscribers by the end of March, I bet you. Our numbers are going up, CNN's are going down because we try to bring you real news. We are real people. Our agenda is to be real, and we're not creating propaganda to try to trick you into thinking something that isn't really there. Let's go back to Trump.
Exactly. I think they'll just...
Go ahead, Millie.
Yeah, I think that they're just going to, die on their own. I think we should just leave them alone and let them self-destruct because people are only going to put up with the lies and disinformation for so long. And eventually, even those out there who are brainwashed, we're going to wake them up too because InfoWars is spreading and the info war is being won by us and by people out there like you guys.
You know what I just realized? CNN is like the WWE, okay? People that watch the WWE, they know it's fake, right? But they still become obsessed over the results of a completely rigged wrestling match. You'll have, an arena of 30,000 people and 15,000 people will be crying and upset and all ticked off about the results of a completely rigged match. So they know it's rigged, they know it's fake, yet they still get upset over the result. That's exactly what happens at CNN. Everybody knows CNN's fake. Nobody trusts CNN anymore, but yet they put out fake news and people still get upset over it. Myself included. I get triggered when they put out fake news. So I'm not sitting here acting all high and mighty. It just came to my head that it's literally like the WWE, completely fake, completely scripted, yet somehow there is still this psychological ability to tug at the heartstrings of people and to somehow inject a false sense of reality, even though everybody knows it's fake. That cropped in my head. I want to put out there. Let's go back to Donald Trump.
Peter, is that one right? Because, I think they have I heard lower than Congress. But
ooh, that's true, actually.
Honestly, the public would appreciate it. I'd appreciate it. Again, I don't mind bad stories when it's true. But we have an administration where the Democrats are making it very difficult. I think we're setting a record or close to a record in the time of approval of a cabinet. I mean, the numbers are crazy. When I'm looking, some of them
are going up
approved immediately. I'm going
55% on Rasmussen today.
people that we're waiting for. And that's all they're doing is delaying. And you look at Schumer and the mess that he's got over there.
Piece of crap.
And they have nothing going. The only thing they can do is delay. And, I think they'd be better served by, approving and making sure that they're happy and everybody's good. And sometimes, I know President Obama lost 3 or 4, and you lose them on the way, and that's okay. That's fine. But
and hold it right there, because I think that this is a good point he makes here, Millie. He's talking about the Democrats, how they have nothing. They're basically just kind of waiting, stalling, trying to, muddy the water for Donald Trump. I think that shows you the true nature of the Democratic Party, because instead of looking for new blood, instead of looking for somebody who can actually, get people excited to be in the Democratic Party, somebody who's young, somebody who's well-spoken, they keep going back to the Chuck Schumers, the Nancy Pelosi's. They bring up Maxine Water out of the Goblin Swamp. What are they thinking? Let's be perfectly honest. There are a lot of people out there that don't like Donald Trump, period. That's obvious. If the Democrats were smart, they would put somebody out there who's new, who could actually take advantage of that and bring something back to the party. No, not like this guy who we're showing right now, who unfortunately, look, liberalism is a mental disorder, but there are actual real mental disorders, and I think that maybe this man might have one. But that's beyond the point. The point that I'm making here, Millie, is the Democrats have no interest in restoring America. They have no interest in actually having a party. Exactly. They're just kind of sitting up here trying to stop Trump, trying to stop America from being great. That's it.
Exactly. They're just trying to find any little thing they can to criticize Trump on, which is really frustrating because, we have to spend so much of our time reporting on the fact that they're putting out fake news and rightening the wrongs, basically. We're having to come out and saying, no, that's not true, and defend him in the sense because we're defending truth. When in reality, if the Democrats stopped, putting out this fake news and spreading these lies out there all the time, we could actually spend more time on real criticisms and actually maybe even criticize Trump on a few of the things that we could criticize him on. But we spend so much of our time having to defend their lies. Basically, you guys are telling lies, so we have to correct that.
Let's go back to President Trump.
I think they would be much better served, John, if they just went through the process quickly. This is pure delay tactics. And they say it, and everybody understands it. Yeah, go ahead, Jim. Well, I had nothing to do with it. I have nothing to do with Russia. I told you. I have no deals there. I have no anything. Now,
can't get over
when
Russia.
WikiLeaks, which I had nothing to do with, comes out and happens to give, they're not giving classified information. They're giving stuff, what was said in an office about Hillary cheating on the debates.
Bingo.
Which, by the way, nobody mentions. Nobody mentions that Hillary received the questions to the debates. Can you imagine, seriously, can you imagine if I received the questions? It would be the electric chair. Okay? He should be put in the electric. You would even call for the reinstitution of the death penalty, okay? Maybe not you, John.
Yes, there's such a double standard, really and truly.
Yes, yes. Sure. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. But Mike, excuse me. No, I fired him because of what he said to Mike Pence.
See, and here they are. They continue to go back to the Russian narrative. That's it. You can go ahead with Trump. It's just they continue to pound the Russian narrative. They can't move on.
Was doing his job. He was calling countries and his counterparts. So it certainly would have been okay with me if he did.
Yeah, exactly. This is like, hold it right there. Exactly. This is like the GM, the general manager of the Houston Astros, calls up the general manager of the Texas Rangers, and they've got some prospect on the team that the Astros have this young prospect that's a hot prospect, and he calls the GM of the Rangers because GMs call each other. That's what you do. And the GM of the Rangers says, well, hey, you've got that hot prospect. What's the deal with him? And the GM of the Astros goes, well, he's our hot prospect. I can't really talk about that right now, but, maybe some other time. And then MLB's like, oh, you weren't allowed to talk about the prospect. And then the owner of the Astros is like, I told you not to talk about the prospect. He's off limits. Don't talk about the prospect. It's just completely ridiculous. He didn't talk about the prospect. It was brought up, and then it was put down. That's simply it. They cannot get over this Russia thing. It is unbelievable. There's so many real things, real issues that are going on, and you cannot get over Russia. What is Russia doing? Is Russia expanding themselves into U.S. territory? The only expansionist activity you could claim from Russia is in Crimea, but if you do a history of that, you might not be so offended. How about China in the South China Seas? Nothing on that. Let's go back to President Trump.
Directed him to do it if I thought he wasn't doing it. I didn't direct him, but I would have directed him because that's his job. And it came out that way. And in all fairness, I watched Dr. Charles Krauthammer the other night say he was doing his job. And I agreed with him. And since then, I've watched many other people say that. No, I didn't direct him, but I would have directed him if he didn't do it. Okay, Jim?
I'm shocked that Charles Kraut establishment agreed with Trump.
Well, ask Jeff Zucker how he got his job, okay?
Look at him,
Well, not
he's
too many,
smiling.
you know, we do have other people.
He's
You
having
do have
fun.
other
Yep.
people, and your ratings aren't as good as some of the other people that are waiting.
Pretty good right now, actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
actually, hold it right there real quick. CNN put out a Love Defies Borders video, okay? They put it out on their YouTube channel. I did a response to CNN's Love Without Borders video. My response, I don't know what the numbers are right now, but I think it's about 10 times as many views there. So that's just an example of what Trump is talking about. Let's go back to President Trump.
You said earlier that WikiLeaks
There he is.
revealing information about the Hillary Clinton campaign
Jim Acosta.
during the election cycle. You welcomed that at one.
I was okay with it.
You said you loved WikiLeaks. At another campaign press conference, you called on the Russians to find the missing 30,000 emails. I'm wondering, sir, if you.
Well, she was actually missing 33, and then that got extended with a whole
maybe my
pile after
numbers are off a
that.
little bit.
No, but I did say 30, but it was actually higher than that.
If I may ask you, sir,
And he was kind
it
of
sounds
joking.
as though you do not have much credibility here when it comes to leaking, if that is something that you encouraged
Okay.
during the campaign.
Fair question. Ready?
If I may ask you that.
No, but let me do one at a
If I may
time.
ask
Do you
a
mind?
follow-up. Yes, sir.
All right. So, in one case, you're talking about highly classified information. In the other case, you're talking about John Podesta saying bad things about the boss. I will say this. If John Podesta said that about me and he was working for me, I would have fired him so fast your head would have spun. He said terrible things about her. But it wasn't classified information. But in one case, you're talking about classified. Regardless, if you look at the RNC, we had a very strong, at my suggestion, and I give Reince great credit for this, at my suggestion, because I know something about this world, I said, I want a very strong defensive mechanism. I don't want to be hacked. And we did that. And you have seen that they tried to hack us and they failed. The DNC did not do that. And if they did it, they could not have been hacked. But they were hacked and terrible things came in. And, you know, the only thing that I do think is unfair is
And this
some
is a
of the
good
things
point.
were
Hold it
so-
right
they
there,
were-
because either the DNC's emails got hacked, which would make the Democrats and Hillary Clinton and John Podesta a threat to national security, or it was a whistleblower from within. So you have to accept one of those two realities. Either a whistleblower from within saw the corruption and wanted people to see it, or the Democrats aren't competent enough to protect their emails from hacking, just like Hillary Clinton with her private email server. Therefore, they are a threat to national security. Pick your pie and eat it, Democrats. Which one are you going to take? They just deny both of them. Let's go back to Trump.
Unfair is some of the things were so, they were, when I heard some of those things, I picked up the papers the next morning and said, oh, this is going to be front page. It wasn't even in the papers. Again, if I had that happen to me, it would be the biggest story in the history of publishing or the head of newspapers. I would have been the headline in every newspaper. I mean, think of it. They gave her the questions to a debate, and she should have reported herself. Why didn't Hillary Clinton announce that, I'm sorry, but I have been given the questions to a debate or a town hall, and I feel that
She was
it's
even
inappropriate,
given the
and I wanna-
questions to the debate and still lost. I mean, give me a break. They're trying to cheat, you know, giving her the questions to the debate, and she still lost.
Yeah,
that
they
just
cheated
shows
and
how
lost.
pathetic they are.
Yeah, that's a great point. That is how pathetic they are. Exactly.
Same with the election. They cheated and they still lost.
And they're still in denial of the whole thing. The
and
whole
in
thing.
CNN for not doing a good job.
And if I may follow up on that, just something that Jonathan Karl was asking you about. You said that the leaks are real. but the news is fake. I guess I don't understand. It seems that there's a disconnect there. If the information coming from those leaks is real, then how can the stories be
No,
fake?
the reporting is fake.
And if I may ask, I just want to ask
Jim, you know what it is? Here's the thing. The public isn't, they read newspapers, they see television, they watch.
Yeah, Sean
They
Spicer
don't know
really
if it's
enjoyed
true
this
or
dialogue.
false, because they're not involved. I'm involved. I've been involved with this stuff all my life.
He seems to be taking
But
names.
I'm involved. So I know when you're telling the truth or when you're not. I just see
never.
many untruthful things. And I'll tell you what else.
Whenever
I
your
see.
mouth
I see
is open, you're
tone.
lying.
You know the word tone. The tone is such hatred. I'm really not a bad person, by the way. No, but the tone is such. I do get good ratings, you have to admit that. The tone is such hatred. I watched this morning a couple of the network, and I have to say, Fox and Friends in the morning, they're very honorable people. They're very, not because they're good, because they hit me also when I do something wrong, but they have the most honest morning show. That's all I can say. It's the most honest. But the tone, Jim, if you look, the hatred, I mean, sometimes somebody gets, well, you look at your show that goes on at 10 o'clock in the evening. You just take a look at that show. That is a constant hit. The panel is almost always exclusive.
No, exactly.
Anti-Trump.
Hold it right there. Folks, CNN, this has actually been the case for a while. They don't even report news anymore. CNN is not a news network. They are a 100% anti-Trump propaganda hit piece mechanism. That's it.
Clinton News Network.
That's it.
I mean, have you ever seen a president ever have to defend himself this much? I mean, they are holding his feet to the fire more than we've ever seen. And Obama should have been held accountable for way more things. I mean, the things that Obama did with, his the Iran deal and how there might have been conflicts of interest there. The Fast and Furious. I mean, there are so many different things that they should have been holding Obama's feet to the fire, and yet that didn't happen. And things like this, and with Trump, they're holding his feet to the fire, and he's just constantly having to defend himself.
But I'm telling you, you can't tune into CNN for 60 seconds until they start bashing Trump. Trump bash, Trump bash, Trump bash.
Exactly.
There's some flooding in California. Trump bash, Trump bash, Trump bash. Fukushima's getting worse. Trump bash, Trump bash, Trump bash. That's literally CNN now. Let's go back to President Trump. He's right about that.
He doesn't have good ratings, but the panel is almost exclusive anti-Trump, and the hatred and venom coming from his mouth, the hatred coming from other people on your network. Now, I will say this. I watch it. I see it. I'm amazed by it. And I just think you'd be a lot better off. I honestly do. The public gets it, Look, when I go to rallies, they turn around, they start screaming at CNN. They want to throw their placards at CNN.
You've seen that.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I was there actually in Cincinnati when the crowd was screaming and yelling, CNN lies. And the look on the reporters and the cameramen with CNN, ABC, NBC, all these mainstream media pundits, I mean, they're faces look so fearful, and it really kind of hit them, the reality that there are consequences for telling lies and that the American people will hold them accountable eventually.
Well, and the progress or the evolution that I saw during this was, okay, at the beginning, it was obvious that Donald Trump could sort of build momentum off of the, fake news or CNN, MSNBC fake news reporting that so many of us have despised for so many years. Okay, so that's how it started. Then it kind of built itself up on social media. It built itself up at the rallies. It got to a point where now people were chanting CNN is fake news or bad, fake news is bad. Trump is pointing at the camera saying dishonest press. Now it started to catch a new wave. Then what did you see? You started to see the Bill Clinton rape t-shirts popping up on sets. You started to see people chanting InfoWars, holding up Trump signs on behind the CNN sets. Kept getting higher and higher, all this momentum building up against the fake news. So then what did they do? At the presidential inauguration, CNN hid on top of a rooftop. So that's what has happened to CNN. They've become, and they don't use mic flags anymore. They don't put flags on their mics when they go out and shoot in public, because what happens is people see the mic flag and they get totally repudiated by the public.
Yep.
Now, InfoWars goes out, and of course, we've got our haters out there. We've got people that'll come up and tell us to F off and all that. But for the most part, people actually love us. They come up, they support us, they say thank you for what you do. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I actually have gotten great responses. People are always coming up on the street like, we love you guys. Thank you for reporting the truth. We need you guys. And honestly, CNN, keep on lying, because all you're doing is, you know, making more people come our way, and our ratings are going up. So keep on lying. We're loving it, CNN.
Yeah, and you know what? And keep plugging our products too.
Yeah,
you know
there
what?
you go.
I have to thank Rachel Mandow. You know, she did a great Christmas plug for us. It gave us a nice bonus over here. So thank you, Rachel Mandow. And look, we've got this new product. We actually, it's new here for InfoWars. We just started getting it ourselves. I just started using it. So here's an idea. CNN, why don't you start making fun of our new caveman formula?
Yeah.
Oh, people at InfoWars, they think they're cavemen. Oh, what are they eating bones now? So go ahead and make fun of that. And then people will go out and they'll try our new caveman bone broth formula, and they'll be amazed at how powerful it is. Actually, I have a cousin who he's a college basketball player, and he's had some knee problems. I just sent him two bottles of our caveman, and I'm gonna see what his response is.
Exactly, and you know, it is called Caveman, but I'm actually really excited to try it myself because, you know, it can be for women too, and women have osteoporosis. I mean, as you get older, you run the risk for osteoporosis, so this is a great product that could definitely help women as well to prevent those type of things from happening.
We've got so many preventative measures at InfoWarsStore.com. Go check out that website. That's how you support us, and that's how Millie and myself are able to be live here with you right now. There's the new product, Caveman. Let's go back to the caveman in chief, President Donald Trump.
Much better by being different. But you just take a look. Take a look at some of your shows in the morning and the evening. If a guest comes out and says something positive about me, it's brutal. Now, they'll take this news conference. I'm actually having a very good time, okay? But they'll take this news conference. Don't forget, that's the way I won. Remember, I used to give you a news conference every time I made a speech, which was like every day. Okay? No, that's how I won. I won with news conference and probably speeches. I certainly didn't win by people listening to you people, that's for sure. But I'm having a good time. Tomorrow they will say, Donald Trump rants and raves at the press. I'm not ranting and raving. I'm just telling you, you know, you're dishonest people. But I'm not ranting and raving. I love this. I'm having a good time doing it. But tomorrow the headlines are going to be, Donald Trump rants and raves. I'm not ranting and raving. Go ahead.
Just one more follow-up.
Should I let him have a little bit more? What do you think, Peter? Peter, should I let him have a little bit more? Sit down. Sit down. We'll get it.
Just because of the attack of fake news and attacking our network, I just want to ask you, sir.
I'm changing it.
Watch Spicer in the background.
Doesn't that
there he is. Watch Spicer's face.
I know, but aren't you?
Sit down, Jim Acosta.
Real news, Mr. President, real news.
And you're not related to our new...
I am not related, sir, no. I do like the sound of Secretary Acosta, I must say.
You know, I looked at that name. I said, wait a minute. Is there any relation there? Alex Acosta.
I'm sure you checked that out, sir.
No, I checked it. They said, no, sir. I said, do me a favor. Go back and check the family tree. Okay.
But aren't you concerned, sir, that you are undermining the people's faith in the First Amendment, freedom of the press in this country, when you call stories you don't like fake
Time
news?
out. Hold up. I have to respond to Jim Acosta here. No, Jim.
Wow.
Jim, it was CNN that discredited themselves when they claimed that they were at a war zone when they were in a studio in Atlanta, okay? It was CNN that discredited themselves when they've been running with fake news stories as propaganda against Trump for the last 2 years, okay? So let's just be perfectly clear. CNN discredited themselves. We're just here to shed light on it. Let's go back to Trump. You got something,
Exactly. Millie? Yeah, well, they were the ones who really first started promoting the whole fake news thing.
That's true.
So now it's totally fell back on them. Now they're regretting having promoted this fake news thing because they were originally calling us at InfoWars fake news.
Oh, yeah, they called us deplorables.
Yeah.
We stole that. They called us fake news. We stole that. And then they tried to steal the nasty woman thing, and then Ashley Judd just made an absolute ass of herself. And meanwhile, these guys back here are all digging into their caveman right now. Yeah. Let's go back to President Trump.
Just say it's a story I don't like.
I do that.
Call it fake news. You're undermining confidence in our news media.
Here's the thing.
Isn't that important?
I understand what and you're right about that, except this. See, I know when I should get good and when I should get bad. And sometimes I'll say, wow, that's going to be a great story, and I'll get killed. I know what's good and bad. I'd be a pretty good reporter, not as good as you. But I know what's good. I know what's bad. And when they change it and make it really bad, something that should be positive, sometimes something that should be very positive, they'll make okay. They'll even make it negative. So I understand it. So because I'm there, I know what was said, I know who's saying it, I'm there. So it's very important to me. Look, I want to see an honest press. When I started off today by saying that it's so important to the public to get an honest press. The public doesn't believe you people anymore.
Yep.
Now, maybe I had something to do with that. I don't know. But they don't believe you. If you were straight and really told it like it is, as Howard Cosell used to say, right? Of course, he had some questions also. But if you were straight, I would be your biggest booster. I would be your biggest fan in the world, including bad stories about me. But if you go, as an example, you're CNN.
That is so huge what he's saying right now.
Story
You know
after
what's kind of
story
funny is he's saying if you were straight, you know, I'd be your biggest supporter. Watch now, the fake news is going to twist it. They said if they were straight.
Oh, he's homophobic.
Yeah, he's homophobic.
But really, he's kind of extending an olive branch here to CNN, saying, look, you know, you guys have no respect. Nobody likes you. Why don't you try being honest and then people might like you? He's just kind of like, look, Jim Acosta, you're a joke. Everybody knows you're a joke. You're up here acting like you're not a joke, but everybody knows you're a joke. Quit being a joke, and then maybe someone will take you seriously. And Acosta's like, oh, I'm not a joke, as he's got like a 2-foot clown nose on his face or something. I mean, it's just working for the Clown News Network. So I think that what Trump just did there was extremely, extremely honorable and humble even. Let's go ahead and go back to the president.
Bad. I won. And the other thing, chaos. There's zero chaos. We are running, this is a fine-tuned machine. And Reince happens to be doing a good job, but half of his job is putting out lies by the press. You know, I said to him yesterday, this whole Russia scam that you guys are building so that you don't talk about the real subject, which is illegal leaks. But I watched him yesterday working so hard to try and get that story proper. And I'm saying, here's my chief of staff, a really good guy, did a phenomenal job at RNC. I mean, he won the election, right? Won the presidency. We got some senators. We got some all over the country. You take a look. He's done a great job. And I said to myself, you know, and I said to somebody that was in there, I said, you take a look at Reince. He's working so hard just putting out fires that are fake fires. I mean, they're fake. They're not true. And isn't that a shame? Because he'd rather be working on health care. He'd rather be working on tax reform, Jim. I mean that. I would be your biggest fan in the world if you treated me right. Now, I sort of understand there's a certain bias, maybe by Jeff or somebody, you know, for whatever reason. And I understand that. But you've got to be at least a little bit fair. And that's why the public sees it. They see it. They see it's not fair. You take a look at some of your shows, and you see the bias and the hatred. And the public is smart. They understand it. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
We have no doubt that you believe this story is fake, but for those who believe that there is something to it, is there anything that you have learned over these last few weeks that you might be able to reveal that might ease their concerns that this isn't fake news? And second,
I think they don't believe it. I don't think the public believes it. That's why the Rasmussen poll just has me through the roof. I don't think they believe it. Well, I guess one of the reasons I'm here today is to tell you the whole Russian thing, that's a ruse. That's a ruse. And by the way, it would be great if we could get along with Russia, just so you understand that. Now, tomorrow you'll say, Donald Trump wants to get along with Russia. This is terrible. It's not terrible. It's good. We had Hillary Clinton try and do a reset. We had Hillary Clinton give Russia 20% of the uranium in our country. You know what uranium is, right? It's a thing called nuclear weapons and other things, like lots of things are done with uranium, including some bad things. Nobody talks about that. I didn't do anything for Russia. I've done nothing for Russia. Hillary Clinton gave them 20% of our uranium. Hillary Clinton did a reset. Remember with the stupid plastic button that made us all look like a bunch of jerks? Here, take a look. He looked at her like, what the hell is she doing? with that cheap plastic button.
That's kind of how we all looked at her.
Hillary, that was a reset. Remember it said reset? Now, if I do that, oh, I'm a bad guy. If we could get along with Russia, that's a positive thing. We have a very talented man, Rex Tillerson, who's going to be meeting with them shortly. And I told him, I said, I know politically it's probably not good for me. Hey, the greatest thing I could do is shoot that ship that's 30 miles offshore right out of the water. Everyone in this country is going to say, oh, it's so great. That's not great. That's not great. I would love to be able to get along with Russia.
Well, I
Now,
think he's
you've
making
had
a really
lot
good
of
point
presidents
here
that
that,
haven't
you
taken
know,
that tack. Look
Russia
where we-
would be a really good ally for America. And the fact that this Russian fear and fear that we shouldn't have good diplomatic relationships with Russia only really came up during the election season. And it was just used to try and demonize Trump. So it makes no sense that we wouldn't want to have a good relationship with Russia, especially given the fact that with China and the trade agreements that we have with China and how a lot of our businesses went to China, and now Trump's going to be trying to make those big changes where he pulls all that back and, you know, renegotiates that stuff with China, not to mention that we have a lot of debt to China. So it would be very strategic for the United States and Russia to have a strong allegiance in the case that China gets mad about our debt and about some of these new trade agreements that we're going to be trying to promote. What do you think about that, Owen?
Well, it's just amazing to me because, you know, he talks about how it's a ruse, but the people who are buying it, whatever people are left out there that are still buying it, look at how they're using the same tactic in Germany, in France, in Italy, all of these countries with nationalist, populist leaders rising, and it looks like they're going to get elected like Le Pen. You know, all of a sudden it's Russia behind everything. Well, since when has Russia been the country behind anything? If it used to be us, we were the ones that were interfering with everyone's business. We were the ones that were, you know, meddling in everyone's elections. We were the ones that were interfering with everyone's border chaos. That was us, not the Russians. So it's just ridiculous that they use that same ruse now and they try to plant it with other nationalist populist movements like what's happening in Europe. So it's just, I think it's a failed ruse.
Could it be that the globalists just don't want the United States, you know, with Trump administration in power, having a strong relationship with Russia because the United States and Russia could kind of be a stronghold together against the globalists?
Well, and they've almost created the perfect atmosphere for that relationship to terraform itself. It's like if there was any bad blood between America and Russia, or if there was just kind of this, you know, like, you know, middle gray area and there was not too much, you know, dialogue between the two countries other than Hillary giving them uranium. Well, guess what? You just created it. Your fake news and your attack to divide Russia and America has now created the perfect environment for Russia and America, I think, to have a healthy relationship. And I think that Trump sees it that way and he's going to try to take advantage of this. So let's go back to President Trump.
Now, look where we are now. So if I can, now, I love to negotiate things. I do it really well and all that stuff. But it's possible I won't be able to get along with Putin. Maybe it is. But I
Putin
wanna
will
just
not
tell you,
divide us.
The false reporting.
Putin will not divide
by
us.
the media, by you people. The false, horrible, fake reporting makes it much harder to make a deal with Russia.
They know that, and that's why they
Putin
do it.
said, you know, he's sitting behind his desk, and he's saying, you know, I see what's going on in the United States. They follow it closely. It's going to be impossible for President Trump to ever get along with Russia because of all the pressure he's got with this fake story, okay? And that's a shame, because if we could get along with Russia, and by the way, China and Japan and everyone, if we could get along, it would be a positive thing, not a negative thing.
Mr. President, since you
Tax reform is going to happen fairly quickly. We're doing Obamacare. We're in final stages. We should be submitting the initial plan in March, early March, I would say.
Check out that tax plan.
And we
Check
have to,
out
as
the
you know,
tax plan. It's amazing.
statutorily and for reasons of budget, we have to go first. It's not like, frankly, the tax would be easier, in my opinion, but for statutory reasons and for budgetary reasons, we have to submit the health care sooner. So we'll be submitting health care sometime in early March, mid-March, and after that, we're going to come up, and we're doing very well on tax reform. Yes.
Mr. President, you
Pause it
mentioned
right there for a
Russia.
second.
Let's
I think
talk
this
about
is
some
important
serious
timing
issues that have come up in the last week.
because right now is when everyone's kind of scrambling to put their taxes together. something that's very painstaking, very annoying, very obnoxious. A lot of people see how much they pay in tax. They want to, you know. So I think I think he needs to basically take advantage of this timing to introduce his tax plan. And, you know, a lot of Americans might not be able to grasp the tax plan. I mean, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, especially when it comes to finances, but you know, I could read the tax plan and I could kind of grasp what the goal was, how it's going to make things simpler. But even for a guy like me, who is, you know, starting to file all my taxes, total pain in the ass, way too much paperwork. I'm already paying too much. I think if Trump can come out and time this correctly and say, hey, look, I know everyone's filling out your tax forms right now. I know everyone's paying way too much in taxes right now. Here's my tax plans. Here's how we're going to make it easier and more affordable for you. I think it'll be interesting to see if he kind of uses that as a political pawn, if you will.
Exactly. And, you know, he has some great tax points in there for his tax plan.
The tax plan's amazing.
And one of the things I actually really look forward to
Still too many taxes.
He said during the campaign that he wants to help make it so that parents can write off their child care expenses, because that's one thing I really feel like we should be able to write off our child care expenses.
Well, and I know that there's certain, you know, deductibles and certain things that you can, you know, mark off when you have kids. But he wants to simplify all of that. He wants to streamline all of that. And I think that's going to be the key. And for someone who is sick of filing his ridiculous taxes, it's simpler now that I just work for InfoWars. But still, there's so many people out there, especially during the Obama administration, that had multiple jobs. That makes it even tougher to file your taxes. Now you got to wait for all your W-2s, all your W-4s. You got to figure out how to fill them all out. Most people have no idea. They never teach you anything about taxes in school. It's not like you know what you're doing. So now you got to go find someone to do it for you. And you know what? Just as a general point, how can you tax somebody on their income and then tax them again when they want to buy things, and then tax them again when they die, and then tax them again? It's like, when are you going to stop frickin' texting me? Donald Trump wants to get rid of the death tax. Thanks, God. So even though Trump's tax plan is great, I still say it's too many taxes. Let's go back to Donald Trump.
Had to deal with as President of the United States.
Okay.
You mentioned the vessel, the spy vessel off the coast of the United States.
Not good.
There was a ballistic missile test that many interpret as
Not
a violation
good.
of an
Not
agreement
good.
between the two countries, and a Russian plane buzzed a U.S. destroyer.
Not good.
How do you feel about that, President?
During the
Excuse me. When did it happen? It happened when, if you were Putin right now, you would say, hey, we're back to the old games with the United States. There's no way Trump can ever do a deal with us, because the public, you have to understand, if I was just brutal on Russia right now, just brutal, people would say, you would say, oh, isn't that wonderful? But I know you well enough. Then you would say, oh, he was too tough. He shouldn't have done that. Look,
I'm just
all
trying
of
to
the
find out
things,
your
wait a minute,
orientation to
wait,
those.
excuse me just
I'm
one
just trying to
second.
find out what
All
you're
of
gonna do
those
about it, Mr.
things that you
President.
mentioned are very recent, because probably Putin assumes that he's not going to be able to make a deal with me because it's politically not popular for me to make a deal. So Hillary Clinton tries a reset. It failed. They all tried. But I'm different than those people. Go ahead.
How are you interpreting those moves, and what do you intend to do about them?
Just
Have you
the way
given
I said
Rex
it.
Tillerson any advice or counsel on how to deal?
I have, and I'm so beautifully represented. I'm so honored that the Senate approved him. He's going to be fantastic. Yes, I think that
Is Putin testing you, do you believe, sir?
No, I don't think so. I think Putin probably assumes that he can't make a deal with me anymore, because politically it would be unpopular for a politician to make a deal. I can't believe I'm saying I'm a politician, but I guess that's what I am now. Because, look, it would be much easier for me to be tough on Russia, but then we're not going to make a deal. Now, I don't know that we're going to make a deal. I don't know. We might not. But it would be much easier for me to be so tough. The tougher I am on Russia, the better. But you know what? I want to do the right thing for the American people. And to be honest, secondarily, I want to do the right thing for the world. If Russia and the United States actually got together and got along, and don't forget, we're a very powerful nuclear country, and so are they. There's no upside. We're a very powerful nuclear country, and so are they. I've been briefed, and I can tell you one thing about a briefing that we're allowed to say, because anybody that ever read the most basic book can say it. Nuclear holocaust would be like no other. They're a very powerful nuclear country, and so are we. If we have a good relationship with Russia, believe me, that's a good thing. Not a bad
So when you say they're not good, do you mean that
Who
they
did I
are
say is not good?
No, when I read off the 3 things that have recently happened,
No,
each
it's
one of them
not
you
good,
said they're
but they
not
happen.
good. But do they damage the relationship?
They all
undermine
happened recently. No, I'm
this
going to
country's
see what
ability
happens.
to work with Russia?
They all happened recently, and I understand what they're doing because they're doing the same thing. Now, again, maybe I'm not going to be able to do a deal with Russia, but at least I will have tried. And if I don't, does anybody really think that Hillary Clinton would be tougher on Russia than Donald Trump? Does anybody in this room really believe that? Okay? But I tell you one thing, she tried to make a deal. She had the reset. She gave all that valuable uranium away. She did other things. You know, they say I'm close to Russia. Hillary Clinton gave away 20% of the uranium in the United States. She's close to Russia.
And has taken money from China and Saudi Arabia.
You know what I gave? Nothing.
Can we conclude there'll be no response to these particular provocations?
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you anything about what response I do. I don't talk about military response. I don't say I'm going into Mosul in 4 months. We are going to attack Mosul in 4 months. Then 3 months later, we are going to attack Mosul in 1 month. Next week, we are going to attack Mosul. In the meantime, Mosul is very, very difficult. You know why? Because I don't talk about military, and I don't talk about certain other things.
He's
You're gonna
just
be
using
surprised to hear
simple
that.
common
and by
sense,
the way, my whole
folks.
campaign, I'd say that.
Right.
So I don't have to tell you.
There
I
will
don't
be a
want to be one of these guys that say, yes, here's what we're going to do. I don't have to do that.
There
I
will
don't
be a
have to
response.
tell
In
you
other
what
words,
I'm
And
going to
you know,
do in
I-
North Korea. Wait a minute. I don't have to tell you what I'm going to do in North
Here,
Korea.
let's hold it there real quick. First of all, it's refreshing to even have a president that's going to address all the suffering that's going on in North Korea. But I love the premise of this dialogue. I love the premise of this question. Well, you know, all of this fake news that's demonizing Trump and demonizing Russia and all the fake news about Trump and Russia, you know, I mean, this is a bad thing, Trump. What do you think? And it's like, what? You're the ones that did it. Why are you asking me? Like,
Yeah.
What?
Well, it's like the mainstream media just does not take the serious, you know, they don't take it serious, the fact that Russia is a massive nuclear power as well as the United States, and they're trying to destroy diplomatic relationships between Russia by making Russia out to be the bad guy, whereas the mainstream media should actually be trying to aid a coming together of America and Russia, because we don't want war, we don't want destruction.
Hold on, this is the illustration. Millie Weaver, I actually have reports here. You're actually a man in a wig. You're a man in a wig. And then deny it. You say, no, I'm not a man in a wig. That's
Yeah.
fake news. Oh, wait, Millie Weaver, how does
Fake
it feel?
news.
How does it feel to be called a man in a wig?
Well, I don't really know how to answer that because it's just fake news.
Oh, wait.
And that's what we're seeing
The
Trump
people,
do.
that's what I'm saying. The people who are accusing him of being Russian, they accuse him of being Russian. He denies it. There's no proof. And then they retort the question and say, well, how do you feel about these claims, though, that you're Russian? How is this going to impact your talks with Russia? Do you think you can make a deal with Russia? And he's sitting here like, you're the ones that made up the fake news, dude. What do you mean is it going to affect my deal? Yeah, it probably will. Thanks a lot, jerks. So he's up here like, I can't even believe it. It's amazing how these people in media will, it's kind of like the same pathological lying syndrome where you lie so much you believe the lie that you're telling. It's like they're going to sit here and inject this false reality into the narrative so much that then it's just like a rock there, it's cemented in, and they can't get over it. They're just gonna continue to go there because now it's cemented into their reality, even though they made it up to begin with. And I think the look on Trump's face, let's go to Trump, the look on Trump's face kind of explains it all right now. Like, what? You made up the fake news about Russia, and now you're asking me how the fake news is affecting my relationship with Russia? What the hell is wrong with you? Yeah, what? Let's go back to President Trump.
And I don't have to tell you what I'm going to do with Iran. You know why? Because they shouldn't know. And eventually you guys are going to get tired of asking that question. So when you ask me, what am I going to do with the ship?
And the
Russian
liberals are
ship
like,
as
oh
an
my
example,
God, as
I'm not
Iran
gonna tell
chants
you.
death to
But
America on the
hopefully I won't
streets.
have to do anything, but I'm not going to tell you. Okay.
Thanks.
Can I just ask you, thank you very much, Mr. President.
Where are you from?
BBC.
Okay. Here's another beauty.
It's a good line. Impartial, free and fair.
He's calling him out. I love it.
Mr. President.
Just like CNN, right?
On the travel ban, we could banter back and forth. On the travel ban, would you accept that that was a good example of the smooth running of government?
Yeah, I do. I do. Let me tell you about the
Were there
travel.
any mistakes in that?
Wait. I know who you are. Just wait. Let me tell you about the travel ban. We had a very smooth rollout of the travel ban, but we had a bad court. Got a bad decision. We had a court that's been overturned again.
You had a treasonous court, is what you had. A treasonous court.
We had a bad decision. We're going to keep going with that decision. We're going to put in a new executive order next week sometime. But we had a bad decision. That's the only thing that was wrong with the travel ban. You had Delta with a massive
But let's just be clear about this. Hold it real quick. I want to make something clear here. Donald Trump, he keeps saying this was a bad decision, a bad decision. No. This was not a decision. This is part of the plan to stop Donald Trump at all costs. This is part of the plan to disrupt anything Donald Trump wants to get done politically at all costs. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter who it is. As long as you're on the never Trump train, you're going to make that decision. So it's not like the judges sat back and they made a decision like, okay, here's the travel ban. Here's what's possibly going on. Here's what might happen if we do this. Here's what might happen if we accept it. If we don't accept it, this, that. No. There was no decision-making process, see? As soon as Trump initiated the travel ban without any negotiation, without any reasoning, without any logic, without any thought process, without any decision-making, they just said no. And to be perfectly honest with you folks, it's completely treasonous in my view. Let's go ahead with President Trump.
You had some people that were put out there, brought by very nice buses, and they were put out at various locations. Despite that, the only problem that we had is we had a bad court. We had a court that gave us what I consider to be, with great respect, a very bad decision. Very bad for the safety and security of our country. The rollout was perfect. Now,
it was treason, Trump. It was treason, and you know it.
Same executive order, but said one thing, and I said this to my people: give them a 1-month period of time. But General Kelly, now Secretary Kelly, said, if you do that, all these people will come in a month. The bad ones. You do agree there are bad people out there, right? They're not everybody that's like you. You have some bad people out there. So Kelly said, you can't do that. And he was right. As soon as he said it, I said, wow, never thought of it. I said, how about 1 week? He said, no good. You got to do it immediately, because if you do it immediately, they don't have time to come in. Now, nobody ever
And now
that.
you've had over 1,500 refugees come in from those countries. 1,500.
A lot of time.
From terrorist
and maybe
countries.
A lot of lives, because a lot of bad people would have come into our country. Now, in the meantime,
and now they did, possibly.
We're vetting very, very strongly. Very, very strongly. But we need help, and we need help by getting that executive order passed.
Just a brief follow-up, but if it's so urgent, why not introduce...
Yes, go ahead.
I was hoping that we could get a yes or no answer on one of these questions involving Russia. Can you say whether you are aware that anyone who advised your campaign had contacts with Russia during the course of the election?
Well, I told you, General Flynn obviously was dealing, so that's one person, but he was dealing as he should have been.
During the election?
No, nobody that I know of. Nobody.
So you're not aware of any contacts during the course of the election?
How many times do I have to answer this question?
This is so ridiculous. Exactly.
You know what's ridiculous is
just pause it, guys.
The deal that they were making over the phone was about removing the sanctions that Obama put on, so that should actually give you a timestamp right there. So it's kind of ridiculous to try and say, oh, was this going on during the election? Because the sanctions didn't even happen until after.
But that's what I'm saying. They come into this press conference, some of these reporters, and there's only one thing on their head: Russia.
Russia.
Like, oh. See, this reporter, she's probably been fiddling around all day, waiting for this press conference, scrambling, thinking, oh, I've got the perfect question. I'll get Trump. Yes, I've got it figured out. I'll word it correctly. I'll get the question in, and I'll get him on this one. He won't be able to back out of this.
Yes.
And so they sit there and they think, I'm going to get Trump on Russia with this question. And it's the same thing every time. And you haven't got him yet.
Yes,
so it's like,
we are
get
all just
over
Russian spies.
Yes,
Russian
yes.
spies.
Oh,
we work for the mother Russia.
What's that? President
we
Putin.
get the orders from Putin.
Oh, Putin wants me to tell you about Caveman.
Oh.
Yes. This is actually not even an InfoWars Life product. This is actually a Ruski product.
Russia.
That's why we have the red with the red here, with the red print. This is actually a Ruski product with the red markings. It's great for you because it makes you strong like Ruski. not like strong American like Trump. Let's go back to Trump.
Ask a question so important. Russia is a ruse. I have nothing to do with Russia. Haven't made a phone call to Russia in years. Don't speak to people from Russia. Not that I wouldn't. I just have nobody to speak to. I spoke to Putin twice. He called me on the election. I told you this. And he called me on the inauguration a few days ago. We had a very good talk, especially the second one. Lasted for a pretty long period of time. I'm sure you probably get it because it was classified, so I'm sure everybody in this room perhaps has it. But we had a very, very good talk. I have nothing to do with Russia. To the best of my knowledge, no person that I deal with does. Now, Manafort has totally denied it. He denied it. Now, people knew that he was a consultant over in that part of the world for a while, but not for Russia. I think he represented Ukraine or people having to do with Ukraine or people that, whoever. But people knew that. Everybody knew that.
But in his capacity as your
She can't get
campaign
over it.
manager, was he in touch with Russian officials during the election?
You know what? He said no.
So now here's what's going to happen. Here, hold it for a second. So this is what she's going to do. Whoever this reporter is probably going to go home and she's going to write her story. She's going to be like, I asked Donald Trump about Russia and he didn't answer my question. I got him. He's clearly a Russian agent. He's clearly a Russian spy. He couldn't answer my question. Meanwhile, he's been answering the same damn questions for over a year now. But she's going to, I guarantee you that reporter will go home and write that story because history repeats itself, folks. Let's go ahead.
I just like to point out the fact that, you know, it's pretty obvious by now to everyone that Donald Trump does not use a teleprompter. And with Obama, he was just like always using a teleprompter. So I just find it kind of funny because I just picture if it were Obama that would be asked these questions that he couldn't actually, you know, answer or that were not in his favor, they would just have somebody all of a sudden drop over and faint in the crowd and fake a fainting event just to get him away from the question.
And also, whenever a question that kind of went against the grain was brought to Obama, he kind of went into like his political demeanor and just kind of, you know, kind of straightened up and just kind of, you know, tried to be monotonous and answer the question like a politician would. Trump's up here like, asking about Russia again? Really? He's up here like Jim Acosta? Really? You're still coming to these things? I mean, there's just such a dynamic difference between the two. It's really refreshing. I think that was one of the things that made Trump resonate so much with the American people. Let's go back to the president.
Before the election, you know that, right? He was replaced long before the election. When all of this stuff started coming out, it came out during the election. But Paul Manafort, who's a good man also, by the way, Paul Manafort was replaced long before the election took
Another
place.
martyr of the mainstream
only
media.
There for a short period of time. Okay. How much longer should we stay here, folks? Huh?
How much longer are we going to be on here? The Alex Jones channel on Facebook. InfoWars
I
Live.
find a friendly reporter. Used to say it was John. Are you a friendly
It's
reporter?
almost like all these
Watch how
reporters
friendly
just
he is.
pre-scripted their
Wait,
questions
watch
that
how
they were going to
friendly he
ask
is. Go
him.
ahead.
And that's why we have a million of the same question about, is Russia, you know, is
Well, it's a
Russia
hive- yeah,
involved?
yeah.
Is Donald Trump some Russian agent? It's like they all have the same questions. And even though somebody else asked the question, they're still going to ask their questions.
This
They
is
can't
what you're
think
talking
of
about.
a new one.
You're talking about the hive mindset, and you're talking about, I mean, this is a cult. This is a cult of these people, the never Trumpers. And I don't necessarily think they got together and scripted their questions. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But it's the same thought process that they have going in. It's like, again, I'm going to get him on Russia. I'm going to get him on Flynn. I'm going to get him on this. And he's just standing up here like, you're not going to get me on anything. And the American people aren't buying your bull crap anymore. So, you know, good luck. And there he is just smiling it off like it doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, it really doesn't. Remember? He won. Let's go back to President Trump.
Are you a friendly reporter? Watch how friendly he is. Wait, watch how friendly he is. Go ahead.
You remember? I remember.
So, first of all, my name is Jake Turks from Omni Magazine, and despite what so many colleagues may have been reporting, I haven't seen anybody in my community accuse either yourself or anyone on your staff of being anti-Semitic. We understand that you have those grandchildren who are very zany.
Thank you.
However, what we are concerned about, and what we haven't really heard being addressed, is an uptick in anti-Semitism and how the government is trying to take care of it. There's been a report out that 48 bomb threats have been made against Jewish centers all across the country in the last couple of weeks. There are people who are committing anti-Semitic acts or threatening to...
You see, he said he was going to ask a very simple, easy question. And it's not. It's not. Not a simple question, not a fair question. Okay, sit down. I understand the rest of your question. So here's the story, folks. Number one, I am the least anti-Semitic person that you've ever seen in your entire life. Number two, racism. The least racist person. In fact, we did very well relative to other people running as a Republican. Quiet, quiet, quiet. See, he lied about, he was going to get up and ask a very straight, simple question.
His daughter converted to Judaism.
Welcome to the world of the media. But let me just tell you something, that I hate the charge. I find it repulsive. I hate even the question, because people that know me, and you heard the Prime Minister, you heard Netanyahu yesterday.
You know, that's the thing, too.
Did
Just
you
by
hear him
asking the question, it forces this into the narrative. It forces it into the mainstream. Just by asking the question, even though it has no bearing, even though there's no substance to it, just by asking it, it forces it into the mainstream. It forces it into the narrative, and it forces Trump to answer the question. I think maybe at this point, Trump should just almost just ignore it. But then, of course, if he ignores those, the media will, they'll write up a bad story about that, too. Let's go back to Trump.
Did you hear him, Bibi? He said, I've known Donald Trump for a long time. And then he said, forget it. So you should take that instead of having to get up and ask a very insulting question like that. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Lisa from the PBS.
See, it just shows you about the press, but that's the way the press is.
Thank you, Mr. President. Lisa Desjardins from the PBS NewsHour.
Good.
On national security and immigration, can you give us more details on the executive order you plan for next week, even its broad outlines?
Yeah.
Will it be focused on specific
very fair
countries?
Sure.
And in addition, on the DACA program for immigration,
Right.
what is your plan? Do you plan to continue that program or to end it?
We're going to show great heart. DACA is a very, very difficult subject for me, I will tell you. To me, it's one of the most difficult subjects I have, because you have these incredible kids. In many cases, not in all cases. In some of the cases, they're having DACA and they're gang members and they're drug dealers too. But you have some absolutely incredible kids. I would say mostly. They were brought here in such a way. It's a very, very tough subject. We are going to deal with DACA with heart. I have to deal with a lot of politicians, don't forget. And I have to convince them that what I'm saying is right. And I appreciate your understanding on that. But the DACA situation is a very, very difficult thing for me, because, I love these kids. I love kids. I have kids and grandkids. And I find it very, very hard doing what the law says exactly to do. And, the law is rough. I'm not talking about new laws. I'm talking the existing law is very rough. It's very, very rough. As far as the new order is going to be very much tailored to what I consider to be a very bad decision, but we can tailor the order to that decision and get just about everything, in some ways more, but we're tailoring it now to the decision. We have some of the best lawyers in the country working on it, and the new executive order is being tailored to the decision we got down from the court. Okay? Yes.
And she does a lot of great work for the country as well. Can you talk a little bit about what First Lady Melania Trump does for the country, and there's a unique level of interest in your administration? So by opening the White House visitor's office, what does that mean to you and the rest of the
Now that's what I call a nice question. That is very nice. Who are you with? Good. I'm going to start watching. All right.
Independent press,
Melania
access
is
to the
terrific.
president.
She was here last night. We had dinner with Senator Rubio and his wife, who was, by the way, lovely. And we had a really good discussion about Cuba, because we had very similar views on
Little
Cuba.
Marco.
And Cuba was very good to me in the Florida
bubble
election,
boy.
as you know, the Cuban people, Americans. And I think that Melania is going to be outstanding. That's right. She just opened up the visitor center. In other words, touring of the White House. She, like others that she's working with, feel very, very strongly about women's issues, women's difficulties, very, very strongly. And she's a very, very strong advocate. I think she's a great representative for this country. And a funny thing happens, because she gets so unfairly maligned. The things they say I've known her for a long time. She was a very successful person. She was a very successful model. She did really well. She would go home at night and didn't even want to go out with people. She was a very private person. She was always the highest quality that you'll ever find. And the things they say, and I've known her for a long time, the things they say are so unfair. And actually, she's been apologized to, as you know, by various media, because they said things that were lies. I just tell you this, I think she's going to be a fantastic First Lady. She's going to be a tremendous representative of women and of the people. And helping her and working her will be Ivanka, who is a fabulous person and a fabulous, fabulous woman. And they're not doing this for money. They're not doing this for pay. They're doing this because they feel it, both of them. And Melania goes back and forth. And after Barron finishes school, because it's hard to take a child out of school with a few months left, she and Barron will be moving over to the White House. Okay, thank you. It's a very nice question.
Please avoid Marco Rubio, Trump. Please avoid Marco Rubio, funded by George Soros.
Yes. This is going to be a bad question, but that's okay.
Unless he turns to the good side. Little Marco, funded by George Soros.
Thank you so much. Mr. President, I need to find out from you. You said something as it relates to inner cities. That was one of your platforms during your campaign. Now
Fix the inner cities. Yeah.
Fixing the inner cities. What will be that fix and your urban agenda, as well as your HBCU executive order that's coming out this afternoon? Now, see, it wasn't bad, was it?
That was very professional and very good. Yeah, we'll be announcing
yes.
the order in a little while, and I'd rather let the order speak for itself, but it'll be something I think that will be very good for everybody concerned. But we'll talk to you about that after we do the announcement. As far as the inner cities, as you know, I was very strong on the inner cities during the campaign. I think it's probably what got me a much higher percentage of the African-American vote than a lot of people thought I was going to get. We did, much higher than people thought I was going to get.
Despite all the propaganda against him.
By that, including the Hispanic vote, which was also much higher. And
despite all the propaganda.
If I might add, including the women's vote, which was
despite all the propaganda.
People thought I was going to get.
Propaganda news is failing.
At the inauguration, there were tons of African-American Trump supporters and Hispanic Trump supporters. So he's making a great point here.
Yeah, the propaganda news failed, and at every Trump event I went to, which is dozens, there were people of all races, all classes, all colors, all creeds, all genders. So just, it's nice, though. He trumped the propaganda news. That's what he's talking about right now. Let's go back to Trump.
With education, having to do with crime, we're going to try and fix as quickly as possible. It takes a long time. It's taken 100 years and more for some of these places to evolve, and they evolved, many of them, very badly. But we're going to be working very hard on health and healthcare, very, very hard on education, and also we're going to be working in a stringent way and a very good way on crime. You go to some of these inner city places, and it's so sad when you look at the crime. You have people, and I've seen this, and I've sort of witnessed it. In fact, in 2 cases, I have actually witnessed it. They lock themselves into apartments, petrified to even leave in the middle of the day. They're living in hell. We can't let that happen. So we're going to be very, very strong. It's a great question, and it's a very difficult situation because it's been many, many years. It's been festering for many, many years. But we have places in this country that we have to fix. We have to help African-American people that, for the most part, are stuck there, Hispanic American people. We have Hispanic American people that are in the inner cities, and they're living in hell. I mean, you look at the numbers in Chicago. There are 2 Chicagos, as you know. There's one Chicago that's incredible, luxurious, and all, and safe. There's another Chicago that's worse than almost any of the places in the Middle East that we talk about and that you talk about every night on the newscasts. So we're going to do a lot of work on the inner cities. I have great people lined up to help with the inner cities.
And I'd like to make a comment here. I think that, and I'm not, it's tough to address that question. That's kind of, I don't want to say a loaded question. It's just obviously it's kind of so expansive. It's tough to really, summarize or answer that question in one sitting. But I think that the biggest thing that Trump can do, and I didn't really hear him directly allude to this, is just bringing jobs back. I'm from the city of St. Louis, and I lived there my whole life. And St. Louis was a huge city. It was one of the biggest cities in the United States for a long, long time. And what happened to St. Louis was a lot of the jobs, manufacturing jobs that were downtown in the city, left the city as the city expanded west, and the city became depleted, and all of those old buildings that used to be manufacturing plants basically became nothing. Worn down buildings, boarded up. Some of them have had renovations over the years, but it's still, for the most part, a lot of those buildings are still boarded up and not used. And because of certain zoning laws in St. Louis, it's basically created a vacuum in the inner city where, and of course, the mayor, Francis Slay, piece of crap, Democrat, has done nothing for the city at all. So I think that it's almost like it's so simple that you're like, okay, well, it has to be more difficult than that. But look, if Trump returns jobs, specifically manufacturing jobs, to the United States, which would, I mean, folks, everything, I mean, let's be perfectly honest, probably everything in the room you're sitting on, 90%, 80%, the room that you're in, the room that I am, the room that all of us are in, are manufactured in a different country, okay? Period. And that's because of the deals that politicians previous have made, trade agreements, etc. So if you can start to make deals that are putting Americans first, has the idea to build the American infrastructure like Trump has, that's how I think the inner cities will be fixed. It's not an overnight fix, but from my experience, even from living in St. Louis, it's basically like this. If you are an African American living in the inner city, just like any other youth, you are going to want to find an outlet. You're going to want to find a stream of entertainment. So you have two ways of going about that. You either get a job, which, because you have to pay for it yourself, in a lot of these inner cities, whether the parents have the money or not, they're probably not going to pay for their kids to do everything. So you either get a job and you pay for things yourself, and those kids usually end up graduating from school, going on to college, or you join a gang. And that becomes your substance, your entertainment, how you accomplish things and how you go about your life. If there were more jobs available, especially ones that paid well, that felt like there was a career opportunity, gang activity would go down. More youth in the inner city would be working. And I think that's how you solve these issues from the ground up. So I just wanted to inject that.
I really agree with you, Owen, on that. And, I would even like to say that not even just service jobs that are minimum wage, like working at McDonald's, but
which is most of the jobs available.
Jobs. They need car manufacturing, industrial jobs back into these communities so that, they can put food on the table and make sure that they're living in a nice place so that their children can then advance themselves. And I really think that Trump's his plan for children being able to pick their schools, that is really going to help a lot of these communities where the schools that their child would be assigned to are really, they're not performing well. They're not meeting the standards. And so those children have an unfair advantage, whereas other kids in nicer schools, nicer neighborhoods are getting the best education that they can get. So I would say that also education is going to play a big role in helping out the African-American community.
That's actually a great point, because what I've noticed too with the charter schools, typically when you send your kid to a charter school or you take advantage of that program, what typically happens is the parents are more inclined to be paying attention, monitoring your activity, making sure you're on the straight. Whereas if when they don't have that option and they just send them to whatever the public school, the easiest option is, that stuff just kind of falls by the wayside. So there's kind of a consciousness, I think, that comes with going to a charter school, because it is almost an adventure of sorts.
Not only that, but with what you were saying as far as gang activity, a lot of the schools in poorer neighborhoods, if your child is going to that school in that neighborhood, you're more likely to find that your child ends up joining a gang or getting involved in those type of activities.
Well, and another thing is from within, leadership from within. I think that could be something that could help too. And that's obviously out of Trump's hands. There's nothing Donald Trump can do about that. But that's something that I think with these other steps we talked about, the charter schools, manufacturing coming back, you're going to have more people in the inner cities that want to be good examples, that want to be leaders. And again, like I said, it's either you get a job or you join a gang, folks. Okay, that's just what it's like in the St. Louis inner cities, unfortunately, right now for the most part. Let's go back to Donald Trump.
Are you gonna include the CBC, Mr. President, in your conversations with your urban agenda, your inner city agenda, as well as?
Am I going to include?
Are you going to include the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congressional
Well, I
Hispanic
would.
Caucus,
I tell you what. Do you want to
as well
set
as
up
on
the meeting? Do you want to set up the meeting?
No.
Are they friends of yours?
Just a reporter.
No, set up the meeting.
I know some of them, but I'm sure
Let's
they're
go
watching
set up
right
a
now.
meeting. I would love to meet with the Black Caucus. I think it's great, the Congressional Black Caucus. I think it's great. I actually thought I had a meeting with Congressman Cummings, and he was all excited.
He was too busy sitting on the
then he
floor
said,
crying.
Oh, I can't move. It might be bad for me politically. I can't have that meeting. I was all set to have the meeting. You know, we called him, and he was
And
all
Cummings
set.
has done
I
great
spoke to him on
things
the phone.
too, but you know,
Very nice
he's
guy.
I hear he
anti-Trump.
wanted that meeting with you as well.
He wanted it, but we called. They can't make a meeting with him. Every day I walk in, I said, I would like to meet with him because I do want to solve the problem. But he probably was told by Schumer or somebody like that, some other lightweight. He was probably told. Don't meet with Trump.
Oh my God.
It's bad politics, and that's part of the problem in this country. Okay, one more. Go ahead. No, one question. Two we can't handle. This room can't handle two. Go ahead. Give me the better of your two.
Not to mention the fact that I actually covered, as media, a Congressional Black Congress event, and Obama was speaking there telling everyone there that they needed to vote for Hillary, and it seemed like everyone there seemed to be in solidarity that they had to vote for Hillary, and they were just trash talking Trump. So I think it's probably very unlikely that they actually would take a meeting with Trump seriously. They're probably not going to do it.
And you know, to me, that's why it's such a empowering thing to see when you have either a woman or a Latino or a black person come out for Trump, because man, they have been beaten down with the propaganda, beaten down with the psychological operations. You can't have Trump. You can't vote Trump. He's racist. He wants to do all this against black people, do all this against Latinos, all this fake news. To see people beating that, to see them consciously beating that is an inspiring thing for me to see. I think it's amazing, and I think it's great. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, you know, Obama talking to the Black Caucus, that's going to be a totally anti-Trump speech, but who knows? Maybe you get someone in there that says, hey, look, you don't have to like Trump. Maybe I don't like Trump. Maybe I do. But you know what? We have to talk to the president. If we're going to get anything done, we're going to have to go through the president probably. So that's at least a start. I mean, I don't know if that meeting that he talked with that journalist is ever going to happen or not. But there you go. He's willing to talk to them. Let's go back to President Trump.
Your personality or your beliefs. We're talking about a rising anti-Semitism around the country, some of it by supporters in your name. What do you...
And some of it, and can I be honest with you? And this has to do with racism and horrible things that are put up. Some of it written by our opponents. You do know that. Do you understand that?
If not all of it.
You don't think anybody would do a thing like that. Some of the signs you'll see are not put up by the people that love or like Donald Trump. They're put up by the other side. And you think
Project
it's like
Veritas, absolutely.
playing it straight. No, but you have some of those signs, and some of that anger is caused by the other side.
Bob
They'll
Kramer,
do signs,
Justin
and they'll do
Fobel.
drawings that are inappropriate. It won't be my people. It will be the people on the other side to anger people like you. Okay.
Bingo.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Who is that? Where is that? Oh, stand up. You can. Oh, I'm working on it. No, I'm working on it very hard. No. Look, hey, just so you understand, we had a totally divided country for 8 years, and long before that, in all fairness to President Obama, long before President Obama, we have had a very divided.
He definitely
I didn't
made
come
it
along
worse,
and
though.
divide this country. This country
Yes,
was seriously
definitely.
divided before I got here. We're going to work on it very hard.
And then the media
One of the
and
questions
Obama
that
made
was
it
asked, I
worse.
thought it was a very good question, was about the inner cities. I mean, that's part of it. But we're going to work on education. We're going to work on we're going to try and stop the crime. We have great law enforcement officials. We're going to try and stop crime. We're not going to try and stop, we're going to stop crime. But it's very important to me. But this isn't Donald Trump that divided a nation. We went 8 years with President Obama, and we went many years before President Obama. We lived in a divided nation. And I am going to try. I will do everything within my power to fix that. I want to thank everybody very much. It's a great honor to be with you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks. We'll do it later.
So there was Donald Trump's press conference from earlier today, a great press conference, you know, and it's something for me to see Donald Trump going back to his ground game that I love. I love this about Donald Trump. I think the people love it too. And even though it's it seems off the beaten path politically, and it seems like, well, you know, how can a president actually be in the ground game so consistently? But he's reaching out to the American people. He's trying his best, I think, and perhaps this is his effort to try to quell or put a blanket on all of the fake news that's going out there. He's trying to go directly to the people so you get it directly from him, and then you can make up your own mind on what he's saying or what he's thinking or what he's feeling, instead of going to the Clown News Network or the MSNBC Rachel Mandows of the world. But, you know, for me, Millie, seeing Trump go back to the ground game, seeing him get back on the podium like this, do a press conference, do a long-winded speech, be fun, be funny, be engaging. He's going to do an event tomorrow in Florida. There's rumors about him going to the UK to do another Titanic-like speech. So yeah, Saturday he'll be in Florida. And then, like I said, the rumors of him doing an event in the UK, which would obviously be huge. Oh my gosh, imagine if he did a worldwide tour.
Yeah,
but I'm
that
just
would be
curious,
pretty amazing.
What are your thoughts on Donald Trump going back to the ground game?
Well, I love it. I mean, this is what we all love about Donald Trump, the fact that he can go back and forth with the mainstream media, with all their fake news and lies. And yeah, just like you were saying, he's just trying to get the truth out there so that there's not all these lies whirling around out there. And then next thing you know, we got all these anti-Trump protests in the street again,
Right.
risking people's lives. So, I mean, I think what he's doing is great. The people love when, you know, he addresses them in this manner. It feels very sincere and very genuine. So I love it, and I hope he continues to address the American public in this manner.
I think that it's something that will endear him to more and more people the more he does it. We saw the Rasmussen approval ratings go up. And I think this was a big part of beating the fake news during the election cycle. So my hope is he continues to do it. You know, he doesn't have to do it every day or every week, but at least go through spells of doing it, because I do think it's a great way to bring the people together and defeat some of the fake news. Well, folks, we've got something right now that's groundbreaking. I've actually got my caveman right here. I purchased some today for myself, and I actually purchased a couple of these containers here for my cousin, who's a college basketball player, to help with his knees. Caveman bone broth, folks. If you don't know about bone broth, you need to look into the health benefits of bone broth. And of course, you know that when Alex Jones told the people at InfoWars Life, hey, I want a bone broth product, you know they said, okay, we've got to get the best available. And that's what they went out and did for you. Caveman True Paleo Formula Bone Broth. Like I said, I just got some of this for myself. This is the newest release in the line of InfoWars Life products. It's great tasting too. A lot of people out there who've taken bone broth in the past tried this and they were like, wow, most bone broth kind of has a funny taste, of kind of a weird aftertaste to it. But this, honestly, I took one today. I had a little shake that was made for me by Weldon over there in the warehouse. I mean, it tastes like a chocolate shake.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
It's got a nice chocolate flavor to it. And usually these are, it contains things that most people don't usually get in their diet on a daily, let alone a weekly or monthly. So, I mean, it's great that you can just have these great nutrients in something that tastes like chocolate.
Smells
and
great.
It's got collagen in it, which is great for your hair. It's great for your skin, and not, you know, the calcium in it. It's got some really great things in it.
Yeah, look at all these great things that they have in there. Obviously, they got the bone broth, the best bone broth that they can get, the bone broth powder protein. But then you've got different extracts in here, alfalfa herb in here, chaga mushroom powder. Look, people who are, I'm going to be honest, I'm a bit of a supplement head myself. I have a whole pantry with nothing but supplements in it. Half of them are the InfoWars Live supplements. But I mean, stuff like the chaga mushroom, I mean, turmeric root, these are elements that people love. Supplement heads absolutely love. And another thing, myself as a supplement head, that you're going to notice yourself about this formula, it's very finely particled. People who take supplements know what I'm talking about, with your protein or your pre-workouts or all this other stuff that you can take. When you get the fine powder, that's when you know it's the best. It doesn't clump up. It's not sticking to you. It's not sticky. It's a fine powder. Usually all you have to do is just, put water over it and it pretty much just dissolves, but you give it just a little stir like you would chocolate milk or something, and it's just like a chocolate drink. You don't notice any globulates or anything like that. It's never difficult. You don't need to shake it up. You don't need to put it in a blender. You just need to put it in a cup, stir it, and really you've got yourself basically a chocolate milk drink that happens to have unbelievable health benefits to you. And again, for people who are supplement heads, this is the kind of product that you try it once and you're just blown away because of how great it is.
Exactly. And a lot of women and even men come up to me all the time and compliment on my hair. Like, how do you have such, thick, nice hair? Because this is not extensions. And what I say to them, they ask, is it a specific product you're using? I'm like, no. You need to be taking vitamins, minerals, supplements, because these are the things that I do and I notice the most results in. So that's what I would say to anyone. It's not necessarily about an outward product you're putting. It's what you're ingesting, what you're putting in your body, and then you will have the results you want on your outward appearance.
Well, and look at these products on the screen right now. Super Blue toothpaste. I mean, folks, this is not a joke. I'm not just up here plugging these products because I work for InfoWars, okay? I take these products. I promise you. I'm telling you. In fact, everything you see on the screen right now, I take every day. Hold on. Go, roll back up. I take everything on the screen right now, I take every day except Caveman because I just got my first bottle. Super Blue, I brush my teeth morning, noon, and night. Brain Force, use it before I do the news. B12, take it every morning. Super Male Vitality, take it every day. Survival Shield, take it every morning. I'm just telling you, these are products that I use, and I'm telling you based on experience, they work. They're great products. And I can only assume the same for Caveman because that's been the result I've gotten from every other InfoWars product I've taken. I took it before I worked for InfoWars. I still take them to this day. And actually, I didn't even know that we were about to come out with this formula, but I'm really happy because myself, I had been looking into starting doing bone broth on my next supplement cycle, but now we've got our own here at InfoWars. So I'm excited to try it myself. And look at that price to start, folks. $40. I challenge you to find a bone broth with the same amount of supplements in it, with the same numbers, the same percentage that you need, the same amount of milligrams for the same price. I promise you, you will not find it. Trust me, I already looked into it. Just like every other product at InfoWars, it's the best price, it's the best product, and once you use it, you're gonna come back for more. So thanks for everybody who tuned in. Thank you, Millie. Thank you, Alex, for starting off this broadcast. Thanks, Donald Trump, for going back to the ground game.
Thank you.
And thank you out there. Please go to InfoWarsLife.com. Support us. Continue to make us expand. That's how we're able to do more broadcasts like this with the great crew back there behind the scenes. I know that they took their caveman just to be able to do this long broadcast. So thanks, everybody. We're going to sign off for now. Remember, InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com. Alex Jones Show will be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central. InfoWars Nightly News tonight, 7 p.m. Central.
Today we call it bone broth, and for thousands of years our ancestors enjoyed its benefits before it became lost to our modern diets of processed junk. We are now introducing Caveman by InfoWarsLife.com, the ultimate in true paleo nutrition with bone broth, turmeric root, chaga mushroom, and 7 total primal superfoods in a single great tasting formula. Caveman. It's those people living in the wilds having to actually build civilization that are our superior ancestors, and we need to do everything we can to recapture that. Everyone knew that you used all the parts of the animal. You used the meat for sustenance, the fat for cooking, but you used the bones for strength. From the outside structure full of minerals and key cofactors to the marrow that produces the blood for the body, this is the engine of the life essence. I'm a long way from the caveman my ancestors were, but I'm sure as hell trying to get back to that essence that made us what we were, and this is a big part of it. I know you're going to want to check out Caveman Ultimate Paleo Formula for yourself at InfoWarsLife.com today.